All righty. Well, hello, hello, hello. Thank you for your time and your attention. Time and attention are the currencies of the universe. So thank you for spending and investing your time and your attention here today. It is a beautiful morning here in Phoenix. The birds are chirping. I am outside starting early because things are very quiet inside and I don't want to be too disruptive. I also like the element of surprise. I like the ability to change things up. I like the change of setting. I don't know if you like it, but I love hearing the birds in the morning. To me, there's something magical about the morning time. It's pregnant with possibilities. It's filled with potential. And ultimately, how it is that we seize the day will determine the way that it is that our life goes, the way that it is our life unfolds. That's why I say win the morning, win the day. That being said, after everything that we've covered, I hope that you guys are beginning to trust me a little bit more. I hope that you guys understand that I've got short-term and long-term goals, many of which I've shared, many of which I haven't, for strategic purposes. I think it's only amateurs who telegraph their master strokes, you know. But at the same time, masters are able to leave breadcrumbs for those paying attention. I have no interest whatsoever in accumulations of power or wealth or, trying to, in any way, shape, or form, rule other people's lives, tell people what to do. That's way, way more trouble than it's worth. Not my bag, man. I'm not into it. I'm a man of simple taste. I like cannabis and I like research and I like true information. And mescaline. Anyway, I'm just joking around. So, look, I got shit I got to do today, okay? That's a long story short, kind of beating around the bush. I got shit I got to do. I got long-term plan shit I got to do today, all right? So that's why I'm doing this stuff early in the morning. I'd be loud inside. I don't want to be loud inside. If I wanted to do this right, otherwise I'd have to be talking like this. People are sleeping. So, case in point, I got some stuff I have to do. I'm going to bring this to you, break it down early in the morning, let you know what's going down, and then I'm going to dip. And I'm going to do my own thing for a bit because it's important for you and for me, believe it or not, okay? You need to trust me. If you don't trust me yet, then what the fuck? There's nothing I can do for you. So let's just get started. Enough of the bullshit. Let's just get started. Okay. Hello, Nathaniel. Shall I consider this your resignation, sir? History is written by the winners, he says. Iran Revolution 2026. Now, why would I say, shall I consider this your surrender? Because he just essentially got himself mixed up in that little, the little world of bullshit. But here's the thing, and this is what's important. click on this. I don't think this is actually Nathaniel Rothschild. But in this little game that they like to play, wouldn't surprise me at all if he's over on the other side. So I play back. Why not? I know what he's guilty of. He knows what he's guilty of, and this is how we play. This is how he's got. If this is how we save the country, this is how we save the country. Is this your surrender? If so, cool. Good. Let's get started on that, right? Because they literally told us they found fucking aliens before they found a single client of Epstein or Maxwell. Think about that. Maybe it's because it's the same thing. Eh? Finding Epstein and Maxwell's clients is finding aliens. Just evil aliens, you know? Because only evil and only alien would harm children, right? Only evil and only alien enjoys the suffering of others, especially children. So that's what's interesting about all of this, is that full disclosure, catastrophic disclosure is also a global exorcism, because the consciousness is going to shift as such. Rodney, it's okay. Hey, it's okay. The consciousness, this is part of the reason why I don't do this outside as well. No, come here. Hey, Rodney, come here. You're just going to bark at cats. Part of the reason why, come here. This is what I'm saying about part of, why full disclosure and global exorcism is, why full disclosure is a global exorcism, because the consciousness will shift, right? And when the consciousness shifts, when everybody knows what's going on, right? When everybody gets to what? That Christ level consciousness, where you understand what's actually going on the planet. You're like, oh my God, right? When you get there, but then you also realize, yes, oh my God, God is real. And God got us here to this point to where we're now waking up to the presence of these demons. And we have God and the angels on our side. We have all these positive forces on our side that are here fighting back and pushing back against this evil, both in the ether and in the physical plane, on the planet, okay, in bodies. And that's actually very important, especially if you've been paying attention with the things that I've been saying, okay? Having a physical body is very important. That's why these demons possess bodies. That's also why they try to influence human behavior. That's why they harvest the souls of children. That's why they hurt them and hurt their bodies, okay? That's why they rape them and shit. Hello, because having a physical body is a divine thing, okay? It's like a divine magnet. It's a universe in and of itself. Do you understand that, right? So they told us they found aliens before they found a single client of Epstein and Maxwell's. Think about that, eh? That's why it's like, okay, if this is how these motherfuckers want to play this game, then okay, then let's play this game, dude. But let's fucking play the game, bro. Put up or shut up. Give me the Baron, motherfucker. Where's the $40 trillion, bitch? And when are you going to free everybody else from your evil satanic ritual shit, huh? When are you going to free all these other countries? Because that's part of the deal too, Jack. And you and your family got another thing coming. Now, this was actually really well done, and it's a good compression of the situation. And I like giving credit where it's due. I mean, like, oh, dude, check this out. Listen to this.
Best way to gain control of the most intelligent, powerful species on the planet would be to completely divide them from the love within themselves. As soon as they are old enough to begin creating an understanding of who they are, force them into a system that teaches them that it is wrong to be yourself if yourself is different from what is accepted as normal. Confuse them about their own biological makeup so that they think that permanently altering their body is the answer to happiness. Require their daily attendance at an institution that makes them focus only on the information that is provided. Make them attend that institution from age 5 until an adult and repeatedly test them on the information so that it becomes their truth.
If you were an alien species and you were like, say, terraforming the planet and taking it over and like trying to enslave the species and take the genetic data and harvest it and all that stuff, what would that kind of a system look like? What would like a massive slave planet look like? You know, what would a massive spiritual war look like?
Give them an explanation to everything so that they never have a chance to make their own assumptions of the world. Scold them and humiliate them if they suggest an opinion that opposes that of their authorities. Keep reminding them of how cruel their ancestors were to each other in the past and broadcast how cruel they are to each other in the present. Only show them tragedies on the news so that they live in fear and think the worst of one another. Convince them that their species used to be that of an incognizant wild animal. Make them think that their very existence is so incredibly random that they lack purpose and struggle to make sense of a creator. Tell them that their kind is as smart as they've ever been so that they don't question the integrity of the system that they're in. Provide them idols with artificial beauty and use them as examples of what it is to look perfect so that they are never content with their own appearance and can't help but to compare themselves amongst each other. Create addictive digital platforms that rank them by numbers so that they base their self-worth off of the amount of followers that they have and are never satisfied. Build a society around them in which those who have money benefit and those who don't fail. Make money their main focus, but make it so difficult to accumulate that they remain in a place of constant struggle, forced to dedicate the majority of their time to the system that made it this way. Tax them in every way possible, but tell them that it's for their own benefit so that they don't think twice about paying it. Take so much of their time and energy throughout the week, but give them 2 days to themselves so that they feel a sense of reward and don't fight back. Promote the consumption of poison in every social setting so that even on those 2 days, they remain disconnected from themselves and each other. Pump their food with excess sugars and addictive chemicals, but make it cheap, advertised, and easily accessible so that they never stop consuming. When their food makes them ill, prescribe them medication that only...
Interesting, isn't it? She does a good job of breaking it down. This is spiritual warfare. This is what happens when you have demons in charge. This is the symptoms of the presence of a parasite in the ecosystem. Simple as that, okay? And that's why they told us they found aliens before they told us they found a single client of Epstein or Maxwell's, okay? Because aliens, bro. Aliens, dude. I'm telling you, the people that are a part of these genetic bloodlines, these parasitic bloodlines, they have like alien-like DNA. What's the whole thing about the RH blood type or whatever? I think that's what it's called. What is that? That really, really, really rare blood type? RH negative, I think. Something like that. I think that's what it's called. I'm going to look it up just to be sure. Yeah, RH negative blood type. Okay. Yeah, it's like the rarest thing on the planet. I'm not saying everybody that is RH negative blood is an alien. All I'm saying is that, like, if you're going to look in the ecosystem for the presence of a quote unquote alien, you would look for gene pools, you'd look for genetic anomalies in the ecosystem. And I just wonder if what people like Nat Rothschild, but with the Rothschild, I wonder what their blood type is. I just wonder. I also wonder I wonder what the blood type is. A lot of the people in Israel. I also wonder what their DNA looks like. You know, like, are they Semites? Do they have a right to be there? I don't know. Put it in my secret box. Okay, so let's talk for a second about this system that this woman above was talking about, and the way that this system is basically designed to use your own instincts or your own desires or your own perception of reality as a weapon against you, because it's psychological warfare. But the culture itself is essentially inverted. So all of these elements to human thought and behavior, all these elements to human culture and expression end up basically being used as a weapon against the soul, against the heart of the human being, because it's crafted by a culture of people that not just worship Baal or Satan, okay, but also it's crafted by a people that seek to gain from your suffering, that seek to gain from your ignorance, that seek to not just gain from your ignorance, but to keep you and your family and friends and everybody ignorant and in pain. Okay, so it's a very satanic system, you guys. And that's something that's very difficult for a lot of people to like come to terms with, because like that girl was saying up there, you know, the goy slop that we're being fed, it's designed to poison our minds and keep us divided. You know, the propaganda is designed to keep us divided. So who are the arbiters of the propaganda, and what exactly is the agenda of these people that claim to be on our side? This is very important. If you're going to understand psychological warfare, if you're going to understand manipulation techniques, okay, if you're going to understand things like the way that your own desire for a leader or a good leader, or the way that you want your opinion to be expressed on these platforms, the way that all of that can be used against you to guide you toward destruction, if you have to know how that works. You have to know, because the thing is, if you can figure out how they're doing that to you as an individual, then you can begin to put together how they're doing that to everybody in mass. Okay, so if you can identify like one of the sprinklers for the bullshit, if you can identify like one of these arbiters of the propaganda and the minds of the public, because they're pushing the propaganda, then you can begin to identify the other people in other groups within these compartmentalized tribes of this espionage network that has been layered on top of our society by this satanic culture. If all of that makes sense. Okay, kind of a roundabout way, but long story short, Tucker Carlson's full of shit. You know, we all know that, right? His father worked for CIA doing what? Not just doing American propaganda in foreign countries, but also counterintelligence here, basically, like basically doing what Tucker Carlson is doing now. Counterintelligence here, okay, whereby the enemy propaganda is actually, but what we would consider enemy propaganda, it's actually Israel first propaganda. It's the Nazi propaganda stuff, that apparatus, the Mossad apparatus. Okay. But they have to represent their opposition within this system of mind control. Otherwise the system won't work and the people will not believe in the system. Okay. Because their thoughts or their feelings are not being expressed on the screen. Do you understand? So this is what social media is about. This is what these polls are about. This is what your data center or your data harvesting is about. Okay, it's about gaining a gauge on the collective consciousness and then giving to the people what it is that the system thinks that they want. So this is why we got Donald Trump. This is why we got things like people like Tucker Carlson. This is also why we got things like all of the propaganda about Fauci or about Bill Gates and arresting them and stuff like that, or Soros or whatever, because they know that we're looking for somebody to blame. They know that they might have to give up some of their, some of their goy. Okay. So because there's this back and forth, because people like the Rothschilds don't want to ante up, they throw these people to the wolves and they say it's them. Go after them. They're just the puppets. This is what I was saying before. I want the game makers, bro. I want the game makers. I want the game riggers, right? I want the people that rigged the system to where they turned other people's lives into a fucking game. Those are the people that I want. And they use people like Tucker. They use people like Trump. They use people, even believe it or not, like Bibi or Epstein. Okay, we're talking about the Rothschilds. I want to solve the fucking problem. Okay, that's my thing. And if identifying the source of the problem and helping people to understand things like counterintelligence and how that works within this apparatus, if that's how we do it, then this is how we do it. Right? All right, so here we go.
Conducting interviews and just asking questions. This man has been conducting interviews and just asking questions and talking about how he's opposed to all of this military action. Meanwhile, his son is the deputy press secretary of the vice president. This man is serving as controlled opposition. When your son is the deputy press secretary for the vice president and you're using your podcast to just ask questions, you're no longer just asking questions. You are part of all of it, and you are serving as the reasonable role that over the next few weeks and months is going to be warming up his audience to a larger, full-scale. Never mind the fact that he worked on Fox News with this guy and then wrote the book review for this book. His news may be well-produced and well-articulated. Ask yourself, who is he really doing this for? This man has been conducting interviews and just asking questions and talking about how he's opposed to.
Okay, so here's the thing, and this is important for all of you on the other end that are really paying attention and that you trust me at this point. Until I was on the inside looking out as opposed to on the outside looking in of all of this stuff regarding the media and regarding things like the propaganda that's out there on both sides, right and left, CNN and Fox, okay? As having been a part of that, in that they chose to use my face and my name as a part of their J6 propaganda campaign, I got a chance to see how things kind of operate behind the scenes. I got a chance to see how these people in the media actually think. I also got a chance to see how they function. I got a chance to see how they, what their culture is like. And what I'm telling you guys is that from experience, dude, these people don't care about you. Okay, they claim to care about you, about America, about the land or the people. They'll claim to care about anything and anyone if it makes them money. They'll tell you to smoke tobacco if it makes them money. Okay, honey. They'll tell you to drink alcohol if it makes them money, honey. Remember, you guys, I was offered $50 million to put my face, the horns and the face paint and all that, on an alcohol bottle. And I said, hell no, immediately, right away. No, absolutely not. And then the guy was like, not even going to think about it? No, I don't need to. I said, dude, my dad was an alcoholic, bro. And there's no way I am ever going to have some kid say that he knew that his day was going to be bad when his dad brought home a bottle with that guy with the horns and the face paint on it. I'm just not doing it, bro. I'm just not doing it, bro. Not doing it. I won't have nothing to do with alcohol. And that's where it's at. Okay? That's part of the reason why I'm broke. That and the government stole my crypto. Which, you know, there you go. Who's promoting crypto? Who's been promoting crypto? Anyway. Being on the inside and seeing this apparatus, you know, there were so many people that wanted me and Tucker Carlson to sit down and do like a long form interview. I know because I was asked. Why haven't you gone on Tucker? Why? So many people. Dude, you should go on Tucker, man. You guys should do a great show. He's a really good interviewer. Oh, dude, I know. For like over a year and a half, I think. A little over a year and a half. I think I did my first interview with Tucker, I think maybe it was maybe it's a little less than a year. I can't 100%. I think it was in 2024, late or early 2024 that I did an interview with him. So yeah, about almost a year. Anyway, I already told you guys about what happened with him. I don't need to go into the drama. It's not important. What's important is this. You got to recognize intelligence operatives when you see them. Okay? And I know because I got burned by a bunch of intel operatives. I figured out that they were intel operatives, okay? And it's like these motherfuckers are a part of this Israel First apparatus, but they're pretending to be on the side of the little guy. They're pretending to be on the side of the American people. They're pretending to represent our opinions and our beliefs because it's Mossad's system trying to maintain power by telling us what we want to hear while the machine just keeps on turning the kids on out. You understand? Now, that being said, what does that look like? What does this counter intel operative look like? Somebody that is, say, claiming to be against Bibi Netanyahu, but actually is in a way edifying, or in a way, I wouldn't say edifying, but in a way is saying the things that would empower Bibi. Even though he's claiming to be against him, he's saying things that give Bibi power. Okay? And kind of like what I was saying the other day about Donald Trump, when he was saying all that stuff about, Israel and Iran and how Iran is dangerous and Israel's our ally and blah, 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 blah. And I said, what you got to do is you got to invert all that. So everything he's saying about Iran, you should say, no, that's actually about Israel. Everything that he's saying about Israel, you should probably say, no, that's the innocent people. That's Iran, or that's the people of the United States. Everything's an inversion with these people, okay? And they have to tell you what they're doing. They have to tell you who they are and what they're doing. So if that makes any sense, this is a part of their deception. It's a part of their religion. These people are Masons. So they're allowed to deceive you. And through their belief system, they've actually told you exactly who they are and what they're doing. Okay, but they've done it through an inverted sense. So if Donald Trump is saying Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, Iran is a dangerous power in the Middle East, Iran this, Iran that. Well, no, Israel, is actually the danger, and Israel is the one that shouldn't have nuclear weapons. Israel is the only undeclared nuclear power, you see. But the inversion of that would be to point the finger at somebody else. It's blame the enemy of that which you do. It's Joseph Goebbels. It's Nazi shit. It's fucking black magic, okay? Roundabout way. Saying when Tucker says that Bibi is claiming he controls the United States and that he controls Donald Trump and blah, 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 what is in fact happening here is he's just drawing attention to this, and now people's consciousness look at Bibi and they think, oh, he's the one running the United States, you see? And Tucker can be against that, right? But let me ask you this. Which would give Bibi more power? Ignoring these claims completely and just being like, whatever, and moving on, talking about something more important, or drawing attention to it. Saying, oh, Bibi's saying he's running the United States. This is terrible. America is, a colonized Israeli state. Just listen.
Bibi's running around. This is a fact. I'm not guessing about this because I talked to people he said it to. Is running around the Middle East, his region, and his own country, and telling people point blank, just stating it, I control the United States. I control Donald Trump. He's saying that. And I dare them to say that's not true. Bibi, not the nation of Israel, not Israelis, and certainly not Jews, whatever that means. The leader, the secular prime minister of a country, is doing immense harm to Donald Trump's presidency, to the United States, and to the world. This is an unbalanced person whose only real concern is for himself. He's meddling in an extensive way in American politics. He's loathed by the entire world. He needs the United States. And yet at the same time, he has this patronizing attitude toward Donald Trump, demeaning Trump to people Trump knows, separating from Bibi immediately, I think is an essential next move. But objectively, that is absolutely necessary and very soon, because he is hurting his own country, our country, and the world, period.
Remember what I was saying about the about how people like Norman Finkelstein or people like Noam Chomsky were the numbing agent? Okay, Tucker's like the numbing agent for America. Okay, people like Finkelstein and Chomsky are like the numbing agent for what's going on in Israel. Tucker's like the numbing agent for what's going on here at home. Okay, he's telling us what we want to hear. He's on that front line there. He's blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. You know, the guy put my interview behind a paywall. Okay, that interview could have been much bigger. He could have made it much, he could have publicized it for everybody. It was what a lot of people wanted to hear and see. But no, it was something that was, it felt forced, to be honest with you. And I wasn't trying to force it, but half hour, he gave the guy that sucks Obama's dick an hour, and he puts it out there for everybody to see. I'm sitting here talking about the way we can free humanity. I'm sitting here talking about the real deep state. I'm sitting here talking about the real fucking problems, and I'm able to articulate them in a way that everybody can understand. I'm also able to articulate how it is that we can evolve as a culture and get away from this Fed-controlled debt-based currency system. And he put it behind a fucking paywall. He gave me a half hour when he told me he was going to give me an hour at the most, because that's all he could do. But he didn't. But he gives other people like Nick fucking Fuentes, who's a cuck and a faggot and a child molester, what, 2.5 hours? Something like that. He gave Andrew fucking pedo Tate trafficker, human trafficker Andrew Tate 5 hours. Think about what it is that I'm telling you. Do these people perpetuate the problem or do they solve it? Are they just spewing the talking points that keep everybody divided, or are they uniting people and bringing people together? Who are these people? I only know this because I've been at this level within these communities to a certain extent where these people know about me. They've listened to my interviews. I know that because I hear my words coming out of their fucking mouths. So, surprise, surprise. This world of media is all about deception. It's all about stage magic. And that's why you see a lot of black magic practitioners in these types of industries. That's why you see a lot of these counter intel operatives, which are essentially dark sorcerers of sorts, because they're experts at wielding deception. Okay. That's why you see a lot of them in these communities. And that's also why you see such blatant deception where they claim to be on everybody's side, but they're working for the opposition. Do you realize how twisted a soul has to be to go back to a community and knowingly deceive hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people? And pretend to be on their side while you're doing it. Do you realize how twisted a soul has to be to do that? I could never. That's part of the reason why I think I got ostracized, because I refuse to play along. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not selling out. Fuck that. So we didn't win World War II, you guys. What it is that these Ashka Nazis, these Sephardic Jews, these slave trading Rothschild motherfuckers have been exploiting we, the American people, for decades. Long before paperclip. Obviously, this goes back to 1492, but let's just stay relevant and somewhat in the present. all the way back to World War II and Operation Paperclip, we bring these Nazis over. Is that treason? Yeah. Does it look like we won the war? No, not really.
We had 1,500 years of Christendom. And then for the last 80 years, since World War II, we allegedly won. Right. And yet all of the West looks like it lost. Since then, we've murdered 70 million children in the womb, just in the United States.
Yep.
And we're cutting off the genitals of little kids.
And we are flooding our nations and diluting the cultures and the heritages. And
with foreign immigrants.
Tearing down statues. And
so you're telling me we won. It doesn't feel like it.
Yep.
It doesn't feel like we won.
It's fucking true, though. If you look around, it doesn't really look like we won the war, considering the events that's taken place afterwards. Society's just been going downhill. More degeneracy, more bullshit. I'm not going to get too crazy into this right now, but there's a lot more to the history of the world, of Nazi Germany, of the whole thing. There's a lot more to that conversation. And as they say, the victors write history. So at the end of the day, you and myself have no fucking clue what actually went down and what the truth is about it. We didn't write the history books. We just read them and were fed them in school. Question everything.
Okay. This is why the Maxwell's taking over the textbooks is such a big deal, because it basically is proof that Mossad placed us in a false worldview that they control, which is the basics of black magic. Okay. And they use people like Tucker Carlson and his dad to maintain that apparatus both at home and abroad, to dispense that Israeli propaganda shit in other countries and in here in the United States, as well as to control their opposition here in the United States. Okay. Now, let's talk about the system and why it's built.
Today we're told that 8 hours of work is normal, but that number has nothing to do with the human body, the brain, or health. It has to do with chimneys. Before the Industrial Revolution, people didn't work in a linear way. Farmers worked seasonally, in bursts, intensely when needed, then rested for long periods. Craftsmen worked by daylight, took breaks, even slept in the afternoon. Fatigue was listened to, and the body dictated the rhythm. But everything changes in the 19th century, when factories begin swallowing masses of workers. In Britain and across Europe, something crucial happens. People lose their independence. Common land is privatized. Peasants lose access to their own food and are forced into cities. Suddenly, survival no longer comes from land or community, but from showing up at a factory. In the early decades of industrialization, the workday lasted 12, 14, often even 16 hours, 6 days a week. Machines didn't know fatigue, but people did. Employers quickly realized the limit. If workers labored too long, they got sick, made mistakes, and died. And if they worked too little, production fell. Time became something to be measured, controlled, and sold. The workday was shaped at the breaking point between human endurance and the needs of the machine. The solution? 8 hours. Long enough to extract the maximum and short enough for the worker to return the next day. The slogan of the era was
8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, 8 hours of sleep.
But only the first part was strictly enforced. And the greatest irony? Today, with technology that was supposed to shorten work, we work just as much, or even more, because 8 hours was never a measure of health. It was exactly as much as industry could extract, without the system collapsing.
Isn't that interesting? So this is the reason why I've come to find, I've experienced this this apparatus trying to keep me to the curb as I've tried to basically expose the goy, as I've tried to change the gears of the system, as I've tried to expose the children being exploited within it. I've experienced what it's like to be marginalized by people like Tucker that claim to be on my side, that claim to be on your side. And then I've watched people like Tucker go to assholes like Andrew Tate, that piece of shit who is trafficking girls, and then went and bragged about it on the internet about how he's embezzled men, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in some cases. Fucking idiot. But Tucker goes over there. He flies to fucking Romania to talk to this guy when he would not fly to Arizona to do an interview with me, even though I offered it to him and his fucking booker. Do you understand? And who do you think is going to help civilization more, you guys? Who do you think giving Tucker Carlson after he gets fired, or quits or whatever, who do you think giving the interview to is going to get, who's going to give humanity more? Who's going to help humanity more? Which is going to move the ball down the field more? Do you understand what it is that I'm saying? All of these motherfuckers that claim to be on your side, Joe Rogan, motherfucker could have had me on. He had his fucking chance. And here's the thing. It's not about me. It's about the information that I'm bringing. Okay? And it's about the fact that these Rothschild motherfuckers, these people, these slave traders don't want the gravy train to stop. And they know that if Tesla towers were up, then their industries don't mean shit. And they don't have their monopolies no more. Their freaking debt-based currency don't mean shit. They don't got no monopoly on our currency anymore. They know that in the new system, this evil child sacrifice, child abduction, child rape and murder and cannibalism thing is done. And once again, what we've also known for some time is that these entities are here and they view us like food, literally. So how do we deal with the problem? Well, that's part of what my lawsuit is about. But you got to understand the system, right? You got to understand how it's designed and why it's designed the way that it's designed. So this right here, like the 8-hour workday, that never sat right with me. The idea of working 40 hours a week at a job that I hated to buy a bunch of shit that I don't need. It just never sat right with me. But some people are just eating the goy slop and watching the goy tube, and now they're just these propagandized nut jobs that are in these compartmentalized groups fighting with their neighbors and their family members. The emotion that they're feeling and that they write the injustices that they see and the emotions that they feel about them, instead of being directed at the system or at the Rothschilds or even the people within the system that claim to represent their opinions. No, they go after their family or their friends. And what happens? That divides us, you guys. And what? It puts us back in the system. Because then we go to our tribe and, or we go back to our phone. And do you see what I'm saying? And then there we go. Our emotions have been weaponized against us, right? Our instincts have been weaponized against us. Our own beliefs, our own desires, our own psychology has been weaponized against us. It's psychological warfare. This is the system knowing what you want and using that against you. So this and never seeing an AI generated video again. How does that sound? How does that sound? Isn't it interesting how when you look back at our ancient ancestors and the way that they did things in season and in time with the seasons and the ebb and the flow and the movement of the energy and these holidays or holy days and the reason why we had them, like all of these things begin to make more sense. You see, but when we're in this culture that's completely outside of all that, that gives us AI generated videos and diminishes our creative capacity, that causes us to sit in front of a screen all day, we're stuck in that system, then none of it makes sense. None of these holidays or none of these seasons or what, it's winter. That means it's Christmas or that means it's Thanksgiving, and you see all the, you better go get your pumpkin spice. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's everybody's a commodity. Everybody's been turned into a number. And in a really shitty culture too, owned by a bunch of people that worship the devil. That's why it sucks. Hello. Getting a little verklempt. So when we look at what's going on right now in Iran, when we look at the way that the American military and this threshold of force that is being abused by the Trump administration and by the Rothschilds, they're the ones controlling Trump, through Epstein and Adelson. Anyway, when we look at how the force of the military, which could solve this problem like that, but no, they're sending our aircraft carriers over to Iran, right? Because they're a part of the maritime law system. When we look at how the military is being used and we scratch our heads and say, what the fuck? I thought these people joined to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. If they don't do that, that's fucking treason. What the hell is going on? If we're asking ourselves that, right? Maybe this is what is going on. Now, I don't trust Anderson Cooper. I don't. And I definitely don't trust CNN. But one thing I will tell you is this. They have to tell you what they're doing. And so they tell you, and then they just make it all disappear.
Potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography online but haven't been prosecuted or even in some cases investigated. That's right, you heard me, child pornography. As many as 1,700 names, according to a U.S. Senator, on a list of 5,200 from an internet sting operation overlooked the first time around 4 years ago. Pentagon porn story began in 2006. An Immigration and Customs Enforcement child pornography sting operation called Project Flicker produced payment records of about 5,200 people, many of whom provided Army or fleet zip codes or military email addresses. Subsequently, the Pentagon's investigative branch, DCIS, began going through the ICE list to identify who actually was a DoD employee or a contractor. The investigation, however, only ran for 8 months and only cross-checked some 3,500 names for Pentagon ties, according to a senator. Out of that 3,500, investigators uncovered 264 employees or contractors. Potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography online.
Alrighty. Maybe that's what is compromising the gears within the Pentagon. Maybe this is why the Pentagon is the big asshole on the back end of the VA that doesn't give a shit. Because they're all a bunch of pedos, man. They're all a bunch of these people that are supporting the parasite known as Israel and the Rothschild family. It's really that simple, And the thing is, and I mean, I'm not going to say that there aren't other phallic parasitic bloodlines besides the Rothschilds, because Epstein's obviously one of them. If you really look into it, apparently Epstein's family has been a part of the slave trade for literally centuries. And this goes all the way back to like way back in Europe, and before the 1400s, before 1492, apparently. Okay, so apparently his lineage goes way back in the slave trade. And when we look at how long ago this area was colonized by these slave traders, and when we look at the way that through infiltration instead of invasion and covert actions, they destabilized the United States during the Civil War and brought us financially into this maritime law system, then it would make sense why it is that they would have infiltrated our military and why it is that they would begin using America's men and women as cannon fodder for their Zionist vision. Because it's just their MO. These people are trying to take over the world. You see? They're trying to take over the world. They want the power. They want the control. You got to ask yourself, why? Well, maybe it's because they're harvesting the souls of children. Maybe it's because they have a whole other level, like inhuman agenda, a demonic agenda. In the year 2000, there were apparently 9 countries without a Rothschild-owned central bank. Now, here's the thing. I know I saw this list before, and we can see, oh, wow, yeah, it looks like pretty much the most of these countries have been invaded, now recently with Iran. I had heard that Iran didn't have the Rothschild central banking system. But here's the thing, you guys, and this is why I just call bullshit, okay? Because I don't trust what's out there anymore. Just like with that whole thing earlier with, Nat Rothschild saying, oh, Iran revolution 2026, Nathaniel's that dumb. He's going to do that. Okay. So even if, like I said, I'm going to assume that these people want to play games. So let's play the game. I don't believe that Iran was a real government after the revolution that took place in the 70s. I saw what Iran looked like before the 70s, right? I saw the photos, okay? And then I saw what happened after. And I see how that politically and economically and socially and religiously played right into the Rothschilds' hands, like right into Israel's hands. How long was Bibi saying that they were a threat, bro? It's like, come on. And how long have they been pointing the finger at Kim Jong-un and like, nuclear weapons? At this point, dude, when you understand that it's all black magic and that it's about creating loose, that it's about getting people to be afraid, then it's like, no wonder nothing's working. No wonder everything's falling apart. No wonder everybody's miserable. So I know that there, for the longest time, was actually countries that didn't have Rothschild-owned central banking systems. Okay, I know that. I think Libya was one of them. I mean, when you see what Gaddafi was doing, then yeah, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. That might have been very well one of these countries that didn't have a Rothschild-owned central banking system, and he was showing everybody that it can be done without the Rothschilds, that it can be done without these child trafficking fucking networks, that it can be done where you have a real government that isn't filled with a bunch of sick fucking pedophiles that are trying to give all our money to Israel. Now, I'm not saying that he was like the greatest guy. I haven't done my history homework enough on Libyan history and Gaddafi. All right. What I am saying is that just as we now have proof through things like Libya, okay, that it is possible to have a system outside of the Rothschilds' control, and that system can be used to help the people prosper as opposed to help Israel prosper. Now that we have the proof of that concept, we can then take what it is that I'm saying and what it is that I'm proposing in my decades and centuries ahead long plan and use it, dude. Use it. Do what Gaddafi was doing, but better. All right? And then have that be the template for the rest of the world, yo. But it's like, what stage of awakening are you in, dude? And when are you going to realize that I know what the fuck I'm talking about, you know? When are you going to realize that I'm here to help? But these people are here to hurt. The Rothschilds, bro, they're here to hurt. And the more you guys give them any authority whatsoever, the more you guys are going to suffer. And that's just the long and the short of it, dude. That being said, if these people want to send Americans to war in Iran to, sacrifice children to Moloch or Baal, which I do believe that's the reason why they chose to bomb the schools, you guys, because these people believe in child and human sacrifice to Baal and Moloch through fire. So they, of course, are going to bomb the schools of their enemies. They're going to bomb the children because that is their religion. These people are evil. It's the Rothschilds, dude. It's the fucking Rothschilds, bro. Now that ICE has a larger budget than the U.S. Marine Corps, we're sending them first, right? Yeah, you know what? Send ICE. How about that, Trump? Send ICE over to Iran, because ICE was training with IDF in Israel, so they might as well be like right there, right? Send them over to Iran. But I don't know. I've seen some of these ICE agents when real pressure's on. And that's just here in America. Can you imagine? No, yeah, send them. Send them. Send the ICE agents and the IDF. Here's the thing, you guys, and this is something that I think is important to mention. This is why I say send ICE, because these people seem to remember that guy was clapping when that dude got shot. You remember that? These people don't care about human life. Okay, they like the war. I personally want peace. I personally don't like war. I don't know about you guys. I think war is awful. It's government sanctioned murder. Okay, and in mass, and most of the time it's the civilians that pay. Okay, and if you go back to what it is that I said a couple of weeks after October 7th, after I really looked at everything, before I responded to anything, what did I say? I said that the leadership on both sides was corrupt, and that the people that were caught in the middle on both sides, the people that the governments or that these, groups are supposed to be protecting, Palestinian Authority or whatever, Hamas, these people, along with the IDF and Israeli government, they're both equally compromised, and the people they're supposed to be protecting was caught in the middle of the crossfire, these two factions warring with each other. And that essentially both factions were controlled by the same people. That's what I said. Love comes naturally. Hate is learned. And when you look at the culture of the Israeli state, when you look at the Ashkenazi Jewish culture, it's Talmudic racism. Okay? It's Talmudic Jewish supremacy. It's bad code. Now, when we examine how it is that bad code has impacted global systems, what has it done? It's created all sorts of war between brothers and sisters, between lovers and friends, between mothers and daughters, fathers and sons. That's what their bad code has done. And it's done it here in the United States and abroad. Now, when we look at some of these images that are coming in, it says Iranian hypersonic missiles evade more than 10 intercept rockets to hit their target. The cameraman just calmly records like it's fireworks on display. Because
oh my God.
now, what I find interesting about this is that they were fascinated. Oh, whoa, look at that. Oh, wow. And then all of a sudden, boom, it hit real close to home. And they realized that it wasn't just a game anymore, that it wasn't just something that they were seeing on their television, and that they were able to root for and be like, oh, yeah, all right, they're getting bombed over there. It's not us, right? That's why I'm trying to tell you guys about when I am reporting on what's going on in Gaza. It's why I keep bringing it back home, to help you understand that they're beta testing what they want to do everywhere. And that includes the United States. They're beta testing it in Gaza. All of these war machines, the Skynet freaking death machine, the Israeli controlled freaking death machine, they're deploying it in Gaza first. Okay? First. And then they're seeing how the world responds. If we're gonna let this parasite just move over the planet and blow people up and then censor us for noticing. I don't think people understand how fast hypersonic missiles actually are, and how these things are able to get past the quote unquote Iron Dome.
Whoa, did you see that? That was fast.
Who's making money? How
look how you run.
much of those missiles?
Listen to that sound. Shaking it. I don't know what.
Money?
Whoa, did you see that?
How much of those missiles?
That was fast. That looked.
Look how you run. Listen to that sound.
How much of the repairs after this?
Shaking it. I don't.
Now, I'm not saying Israel doesn't have it coming. They most certainly do. Okay, that's why I showed this video first, because things are starting to hit really close to home for these people, and they're going, "Holy shit!" Oh my God. And they should be, because they've been doing that. That this is karma. Okay, these people don't believe in karma because they believe that, I guess what, that it's blasphemous or something. I don't know, but you know, karma's real. I mean, they just call it God's judgment. This is God's judgment here. These are wicked people. They've turned into wicked people. They're not God's people, that's for sure. They're not God's, chosen people if they're acting that way, right? So this is their karma. This is their karma. This is not Gaza. This is Tel Aviv. Now, here's the thing, you guys, and this is my thing. Like, you got all these Jews in Israel totally unable to find shelter, running around, frightened, as they should be, like fish in a barrel, guys, shitting ducks. What you guys got to understand, though, and this is my issue, okay? I don't understand why we aren't striking military targets. I understand that the people of Israel are, some of the worst on the planet in some ways, in a lot of ways. But the thing is that what we want to do is debilitate Israel's capabilities, Israel's military capabilities. That's what we want to do. You don't want to target their civilian populations. What the fuck? Bibi Netanyahu's gone, bro. Bibi's gone. He's in fucking Germany. All these oligarchs, all these freaking all these oligarchs are gone. All these rich billionaires are gone. There's kids. There's kids in this crowd, bro. Look. I'm appalled by human tragedy. Why aren't we striking military targets? I understand that they don't. They hit fucking schools. I get that. But that's all the more reason why we should be striking the military targets that sent the bombs to those schools, not fucking civilian populations, dude. And if you can't strike with military precision, if you can't have surgical entropy with strategic precision, then you have not mastered statecraft. If you don't know where their missile systems are and you can't target them, then you shouldn't be firing missiles in the middle of civilian populations. If you're not going to target like moral targets or like a spiritual targets, like the Wailing Wall, that is like a sacred site for them, is a demoralization technique while there's no civilians there, but you're going to bomb an area that has civilians where people can't find bomb shelters, then you're just as fucked up as they are. And that's why I'm saying that I don't believe that the people of the government of Iran is not controlled by the Rothschilds, because these people want the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews to all destroy each other so that these people that believe in this messianic garbage can end up basically ruling over the ashes as flowers bloom from dead bodies afterward, okay? So I see the picture much, much bigger than most people. And that's why I just don't see the advantage to harming children or civilians. And I see that as a problem and evidence that the problem isn't really changing. It's just, it's just changing masks. That's all it is. So just think about it, okay? That being said, for those of you abroad, I want you to look Israelis and others are fleeing Dubai now due to escalating Iranian-Israeli-American tensions. So I'm just saying that these people that are spending their, billions of dollars or whatever, they're spending their millions, they're coming, they're being their tourists, they're spending their money in your country, right? They're fucking your kids, they're trafficking your kids. These ones that are participating in these networks that you think, oh, well, we're making money though. We're making money. When push comes to shove, these motherfuckers are out, bro. They're out. And they're leaving you high and dry, baby. They're leaving you high and dry. All right? Remember that. Now, watch this.
I'm actually so scared. I'm in JVC right now and I can see. Oh, no. Not meant to be happening here. Can't everyone just chill out? Biggest concern is that people, I don't want anyone getting hurt. You know what I mean? I've been hearing loud explosions sort of like in the background all day. And it's like, the sound, it shakes the windows. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the weirdest sound ever. And now I'm seeing them. This is not fun, guys. We're supposed to be in the safest place. I love the UAE. I love being here. I feel so safe all the time. And now I can see it. Please just stop. Scared. I'm actually so.
So these are the people that have been cheering when bombs have been dropping in places like Palestine or places like Iraq or Afghanistan or even Iran. Okay. These are the people that have been cheering because they get to continue to sit back in luxury. Remember what I was saying about the Sephiroth and the Kephroth, right? And now what we're talking about is the terminology for that threshold of power and the government's force, ability to use force. Okay. The Sephiroth and the Kephroth, okay? And I'm only using their terminology because you have to understand how they see things in order to beat them at their own game, okay? Once you understand how their system works, you can beat them at their own game. That makes sense, right? So the idea here is that these people, these billionaire types that have been sitting in Dubai or sitting in Tel Aviv or whatever, right? Flying around Europe in their private jets when the going gets tough, those types. They are in they've for the longest time been in the Sephiroth. They've been in this really high frequency vibe of having lots of money, not having to worry about anything, having everything that they wanted, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Essentially, quote unquote, living the dream. While everybody in the Kephroth, everybody that's working a job, people that are living day to day, just trying to put food on the table, the civilians that get bombed, they're in the Kephroth. They're in this state of lack. They're in this darkness. They're in this constant need where they're actually living the nightmare, you see, where they're stuck in the physical. And they're stuck in the day-to-day hustle and bustle that allows them, those billionaires in the Sephiroth, right, in this higher frequency of peace and ease, to be there. We're working so that they can stay in their cushy environment, okay? So this woman panicking, it's like, okay, lady, I have a question for you. You look like you got a lot of money, okay? What do you think about the people that are poor, that don't have a lot of money? What do you think they are thinking when those bombs are dropping and it is rattling the windows or the walls of their little home? What do you think? What do you think they're thinking when that's happening? It's a fair question. Now, look, like I've said before, I don't advocate for the bombing of civilian populations. I think that's wrong. And once again, I think it's further illustration that the evil has only changed masks. They've just moved from being behind Israel to now being what? Behind Iran, and using Iran as a way to just drop bombs onto civilian populations, not drop bombs onto the Rothschilds' estates. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? It's just, what I'm basically saying is that essentially the militaries of these countries are kind of like it is with Tucker Carlson and me versus Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate. Okay, if Tucker Carlson wanted to change the system, if he truly wanted to, be, out there for you and for the little guy, then he would have given the little guy who got screwed by the big system and knows how to fix things 5.5 hours. And he would have given the child trafficking piece of shit, Andrew Tate, who's actually a faggot, by the way, and a child molester, wouldn't give that guy 5 minutes. If anything, he'd give him the 30-minute interview that he puts behind the paywall. But that's the distortion of this society. So it's like it is with the Iranian military. Okay, so you're going to bomb civilian populations, but you're not going to bomb the Rothschilds estate. You're not going to bomb the Wailing Wall. You're not going to bomb the fucking courthouse in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or whatever. You're not going to, I think it's in Jerusalem. Pretty sure it's in Jerusalem, but you're not gonna do all that. You're not gonna hit him where it hurts. You're not gonna target Bibi. That would have been my first thing. I wouldn't have responded at all at first. Then I would have taken Bibi first because they took out my head of state. I'm just saying, warfare is warfare, bro. I don't believe in an eye for an eye, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Christ say that in court, it's an eye for an eye? I'm just curious. In court of law, an eye for an eye. Is that what Christ said or not? I'm going to have to look it up. Maybe you have to look it up too. All right, so let's move on. Palestinians are celebrating. These are the poor people that had their shit bombed into oblivion. So for them to see the Israelis suffer in their pain is something that they enjoy. But this is the demonic distortion, you guys. And this is where we have to stop this evil in its tracks. Okay? This is where that Christ consciousness comes into play. This is where the awakening happens. Okay? We don't want to become monsters like them. We don't want to celebrate the death of civilians and women and children by indiscriminately dropping bombs on civilian populations. That's not what we do. That's not who we are. At this point, by doing that, you are no better than the Israelis that you hate so much. And if it were my choice of where I would strike, I've already told you where I would hit. Surgical entropy, strategic precision. That is the mastery of statecraft. And I've said it for a while now. So I understand the Palestinians have suffered a lot. But we cannot become monsters like them. That is what these demons want, you guys, is to taint our souls, to destroy our being, our divinity, to corrupt our hearts. Don't give your enemy your heart. Not that way. Now, that being said, at least the Iranians allowed the emergency vehicles to get to the civilian populations. And this is where I, to a certain extent, understand the celebration of retaliation. But we shouldn't be celebrating retaliating against civilian populations. We should be celebrating the disarming of the war machine. We should be celebrating the destruction of missile systems, the destruction of deep underground military bases. We should be celebrating the destruction of that fucking wall. Do you understand what it is that I'm telling you? And do you see how and why it is that I'm saying that the system isn't really changing? It's just changing masks, and this is fucking bullshit. So Israeli towns have a Gaza-like look about them. So this is karma, Israel. This is what you guys have been allowing to happen in countries all over the world, bro. Not just in Gaza, dude. All over the world. Your guys' government created ISIS. Your guys' government created Hamas. Your guys' government created Al-Qaeda. So if you are upset with any of those organizations for Israeli deaths, you have your government to thank. Just like we in the United States have our government to thank, and yours, because essentially Mossad and CIA are the same at this point to a certain extent. Mossad, CIA is just like an offshoot of Mossad here in the United States. So you're going to have to come to terms with that fact that if you have civilian casualties at the hands of radical Islam, it's because of your own government, not because of radical Islam. It's because of the Rothschilds, not because of radical Islam. Okay? It's black magic, bro. And now you guys are suffering the kinds of wounds that you've been allowing other people to suffer because you're living a fucking lie. Do you understand? This is what happens when you live lies. This is what happens when you live in illusions. This is what happens when you believe fucking demons, okay? Listen to this. Because he's talking about spitting on Christians. This is the mentality, and this is why I'm saying to y'all over there in Israel, y'all got another thing coming. And if you think that you're going to be able to just bomb countries and take, you hijack ours and see no consequences, you're wrong, dude. You're very, very, very wrong.
בסדר, לירוק על נוצרים. עליהם ממש? לא יודע, אני יורק על הרצפה, אולי אם אני רואה צלב, אם אני רואה נוצרי לבד. אתה כן? אני יורק על הרצפה, זה מגעיל אותי. למה? תושב? למה? כי נצרות זה משהו נגד היהודים משהו. אם הם עובדי עבודה זרה, אז אנחנו צריכים למוס בהם ולשקט אותם ולרמוס אותם ובעיקרון גם להרוג אותם, כי הרי גוי חייב בשבע מצוות בני נוח, ואם הוא לא מקיים את זה צריך להרוג אותו. אבל... אתה תהרוג מישהו? אם הייתי יכול, הייתי מאוד שמח לעשות את זה, אבל אין לנו בית דין, אז אנחנו לא יכולים לעשות את זה.
שמאמין שהאלוהים שלי הוא חלק מאיש, אז צריך להרוג אותו, מי שמזלזל באלוהים שלי, אז אני אהרוג אותו. אז זה לא, אבל זה תפקיד שלכם, להרוג או לרעוק, זה לא התפקיד של אלוקים? לא, השם אומר לנו מה לעשות. תפקידה בעולם זה לעשות טוב, לגרום שהעולם יהיה נקי. כן. את כל אדם שיאמין באיזה בן זונה אחד. אבל איזה כתוב, אבל...
Okay, once again, pointing at 1,000-year-old text as a reason for modern-day war crimes or modern-day crimes against humanity. I'm just saying. It's bananas. It makes no sense. It's totally unethical. There's no moral justification other than their ink on paper, other than their interpretation of ink on paper. Actually. So once again, it's bad code. What are the effects of countries around the world prescribing to this bad code, using this bad code in their country? Well, we have espionage networks. We have Mossad espionage networks in every country around the world. We have Rothschild-owned central banking systems in every country around the world, thereby giving all of these people's countries and their militaries and stuff to the Rothschilds. Okay, which means they can have them fighting each other and destroying civilian populations and not actually targeting the problem all fucking day, and have each other hating each other, have everyone hating each other. And that is the effect of the bad code. You got people like Tucker Carlson out there pretending to care. You got people like Elon Musk out there pretending to care. Elon Musk also, remember, he free Jacob Chansley, offered to pay my lawyer fees, not so much as a congratulations, not so much as a word when I got out. And I was using his platform. I got shadow banned. I got censored because I was talking about unity, because I was talking about Tesla towers and free energy, because I was talking about 0 point energy and Salvador Payas's patents. Because I was talking about ending the psychological war and rescuing the child the children in the child trafficking networks, because I was talking about things like sex kittens and super soldiers and MK Ultra victims and sleeper agents and stuff. I was talking about things like psychotronic weaponry because I was trying to solve the fucking problem. Okay. So I got shadow banned. So I got marginalized. So I got kicked to the curb, as it were. And it's because it's an Israel-controlled / Rothschild-controlled system of Baal worship, of Satan worship. Okay? But the fact is, the world is ready to see Israel get its nuts kicked. If you don't think that Mossad knows that, you got another thing coming. So what do? They target their own populations with hypersonic missiles from Iran. Bibi Netanyahu got out. All those rich billionaires got out. They were getting out of Dubai. Where do you think they're going? You think they're going back to some sort of a Middle Eastern country where that might happen to them? No, they might be going to China, according to God's side. We'll get there later. But once again, Iran, no excuse for bombing civilian populations. None whatsoever. You cannot do that. Okay? You just can't. It says coward Bibi ran to Nazi Germany, specifically Berlin, leaving his people to fend for themselves. Yes, I know. It says Maduro was selling oil and Chinese money. That's what got him kidnapped. That's funny. Well, you guys, until we start targeting the right people, until we start remembering who the real enemy is, we're not going to get anywhere. That's just all there is to it. So until you start recognizing who the real enemy is and who your real allies are, because Tucker Carlson's not one of them, until you start realizing who your real allies are, you're going to continue to trust your enemies. I'm sorry to be so cynical and laugh that way, but it's like, look, dude, what stage of awakening are you in, bro? The Israelis are calling the attacks on civilian populations war crimes, but tell them that after Gaza, they can go fuck themselves. What we're witnessing here, you guys, is a mass satanic ritual. What we're witnessing here is mass satanic ritual abuse, okay? And that's why I'm saying, no. Don't be targeting civilian populations. Target the missile systems. Target the military installations. Target the military bases. Now, from what I understand, that is actually something that Iran did. They targeted a number of military bases in the Middle East, but from what I also understand, they also targeted civilian populations as well. And strategic military positions in the Middle East, I can understand striking those, even if they're U.S. bases. I'm as a member of the United States, I'm not for that. You should be targeting Israel. You should be targeting the Rothschilds. You should be targeting these very consequential targets, the ones that I've already told you. Rod, leave the chicken alone. Come here. No, come here. Come on. Come here. Good boy. But still, you guys, it's like, come on. Really? Civilian populations? It's satanic ritual abuse. They're just trying to get us in this trauma loop so that they can lose humanity with different masks. Okay? That's why I was calling out God's side earlier, because God's side is talking about how Jews should go to China and learn Chinese. Yeah. These are satanic ritual abuse, okay? Trying to do this to all of us. Now, some of this is in German or in other languages. Bear with me. Yeah, I couldn't understand it either. But a lot of this is in English. I just want to show you that these people are real. These victims are real, that they are all over the planet, in particular in Germany, as interesting as that is. And it's because of where the Rothschilds come from. It's because of the Bavarian Illuminati. It's because of a number of things regarding the vortexes in that area. Okay. But suffice it to say, they're trying to SRA or satanically ritually abuse all of humanity. And I just won't let it happen, you guys.
They call it satanic canon. They call it false memories. However, ritual abuse is real. Mind control is real. 50 survivors have now united their voices for the biggest disclosure of the secret global cult in the history of mankind. Everything will come to light. They explain how they became victims of ritual abuse and mind control.
So I was born into a cult family. So my father is a Freemason, Satanist, Rosicrucian, and he was also an ASIO operative. So ASIO in my country of Australia is the equivalent of the MI6 or CIA.
Ich wurde von meinem eigenen Vater in diese Kreise verkauft. Er war zudem selbst auch pädokriminell.
My father was a pedophile.
Ja, ganz klar meine Familie. Meine Großmutter war eine mit von den Haupttäterinnen.
Meine Kulteltern waren Satanisten, so auch meine Großeltern.
My family has on both sides political connections.
They describe the horrors they had to endure.
Ritual abuse, sex trafficking, torture, and experiments.
Of course, they were wearing those the robes with the black with caps over it. They're chanting and a lot of candles.
Total verängstigte Kinder in Holzverschlägen, in Käfigen, in Art Kellern eingesperrt. Manche der Kinder sind völlig apathisch, andere weinen und schreien, ganz verzweifelt, andere wimmern vor sich hin.
Mit Gewalt, also Vergewaltigungen, es hat wie so ein Ritual gegeben, also wo mit Tierblut.
They were burning a child my age at a stake.
Werkzeug zu sein, um einem kleinen Mädchen das Leben nehmen zu müssen, und es dann am Ende auch noch essen zu müssen.
There were parties and they would eat babies and cook them and eat them like they were nothing.
I have seen wealthy, aristocratic white women ordering children of color on menus to be delivered dead, cooked on platters in a wing of the place they called Cannibal's Kitchen.
Unfortunately, a child was killed, my friend.
They continued to stab him, and then they told me I was given a knife, and I was told, oh, I have to help. Kill him, the boy.
They testify about sophisticated mind control techniques.
So it was trauma-based mind control, which involves a variety of sexual abuse, rape, sodomy. Had cattle prods used on me, electric shock, drugs, hypnosis.
So this is my thing, you guys, is that I know that all this is true, that these victims are real, and that's part of the reason why I have such a problem with some of these people that claim to be on our side. Okay? Because they're some of the worst of the worst. People like Trump, some of the worst of the worst. People like Carlson, some of the worst of the worst, dude. Because if they're going to pretend to be on our side and then not actually deliver when it matters most, that's the definition of a traitor. Okay? If they're going to try to sabotage us when it matters most, that is the definition of a traitor, you guys. That's what traitors do. That's what they're there for. is to sabotage the opposition at the most crucial moment of all, when they're about to win, or when when their side that they're infiltrating for is about to lose.
I was obviously linked up to machinery and in some of the bases.
Was sie eben auch machen, das ist, dass durch diese wiederholte Folter und auch Missbrauch ja dann so verschiedene Persönlichkeitsanteile entstehen.
Electroshocks on my head. They were organized. They were wearing those white coats. They were I have the flashbacks of the machines. They know what they were doing.
There was no experimentation done on me at all. They knew exactly what was going to happen. A persona that was being created.
And despite all these horrors, they have not lost their will to fight and to bring about change.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter,
really quick, I'll let her finish.
Is that it's everywhere, and it's happening mostly in the elite circles.
Okay, really quick. It's everywhere, and it's happening mostly in the elite circles, quote unquote elite circles. Okay, and that's because these quote unquote elite circles are a part of these secret societies that are a part of this Baal worship or Satan worship, i.e., the Masons, the Rosicrucians, the Knights of Malta, the Templars, the Order de Temple Orientis. There's all these factions, the Skull and Bones, the Illuminati, and there's factions within each of these factions, good and bad, fully initiated and not fully initiated, people that are trying to get up there, people that are in the lower levels, people that are up there in those higher levels and are trying to recruit people into this shit. There's all sorts of levels. What we're talking about here is essentially a global mind control apparatus, okay? Something that is designed to influence our cognitive grasp of reality, okay? Something that's designed to influence our syntax, something that's designed to influence the way that we construct the world so that our consciousness can basically be used in a collective sense to produce the kind of future that these less than 1%ers and their Luciferian God want. All right? It's about influencing our mind to build their satanic new world order hell on earth for them. And this is part of the reason why they consider us goy, because a lot of people willingly do it, not realizing that they are literally like building the apparatus of their own extinction.
Bringing together all the voices of the people that have been experiencing this. So I'm hopeful that we are affecting change.
It's real. This is not fake. And that's really hurtful to a survivor that nobody can believe on what happened to them in their past.
Es findet tatsächlich statt. Und es ist irgendwie ganz, ganz wichtig, dass man die Leute, die das erfahren haben, nicht damit alleine lässt, weil ganz ehrlich, man unterstützt die Täter nur und man sorgt dafür, dass es weitergeht. Und das muss endlich aufhören.
See now their full testimonies on 50voices.org.
So why I am bringing this up now is because each and every one of us in one form or another is a victim of satanic ritual abuse because we were all brought into the COVID mess. Okay. And we've also been manipulated through mind control, satanic mind control, through things like 9/11 and other false flags. All right. So all of our minds in one form or another have been conditioned by this satanic global mind control apparatus that is Nazi in nature, or Ashka Nazi in nature, rooted in Baalic worship or Satanism. Okay. And this is why our thoughts and our emotions, our instincts and our desires, our likes and dislikes have been weaponized against us. All right. Because of the nature of the system. Thought this was funny, wanted to share. I think a lot of men and women are kind of at this place, but as I've said before, targeting civilian populations, you guys, that is not who we are. That is not the mastery of statecraft. That is not evolution. That is a reversion to what it is that we did before. That is not how we grow as a species. That is not how we grow as individuals. So I'm all for destroying the state of Israel. The question is how, when, where, and why, and what is to be done with the civilian populations that live there currently.
Hast du etwas Zeit für mich? Singe ich ein Lied für dich von 99 Luftballons auf ihrem Weg zum Horizont. Denkst du vielleicht grad an mich? Singe ich ein Lied für dich von 99 Luftballons. Dass sowas von sowas kommt.
Okay. So here we are. Former U.S. intelligence officer Scott Ritter, I don't know who that is. It says that they bombed 2 elementary schools in Iran. Families sent their daughters to school trusting the U.S. promise that diplomacy is ongoing and 100 girls have been burned under the rubble.
Wouldn't be a war because Marco Rubio said he was trapped. We have hit 2 children's schools. We have bombed 2 children's schools.
Because these people believe what? In Satan, in satanic sacrifice and child sacrifice to Baal or Moloch.
Hit 2 children's schools. We have bombed 2 children's schools.
Now, really quick, think about this. That is where their mentality is at, right? They would bomb children's schools because they worship Moloch, because they worship Baal, the god of child and human sacrifice, that they believe that doing that is going to bring them power, okay? What are the areas that I'm talking about dropping bombs? What does that say about who I worship? What does that say about what I believe? What does that say about how I lead? I'm only saying, not because it's all about me. What it's about is showing you guys a real leader, dude. What it's about is giving you an example of somebody that is worthy of listening to, somebody that's worthy of having your time and your attention, okay?
63 dead children, girls, little girls dead. Their mothers waiting for their daughters to come home. They sent their daughters to school on the belief that there wouldn't be a war because there was diplomacy going on, that there wouldn't be a war because Marco Rubio said he was traveling to the region on Monday. So they sent their girls to a school. The girls were in school and we bombed it. And we bombed another one. There's 100 girls buried under that rubble being dug out now. Girls that will not survive.
And Epstein's clients are still walking free. Trump's one of Epstein's clients. Remember that.
This is the horror of war. But what I'm trying to say is, at least when I was involved in the bombing of the Amaria shelter, we did our damnedest to make sure that it was a military target. We were wrong, and it haunts you forever. What in God's name could lead us to bomb 2 girls' schools? I'm involved in this. I did this for a living. I know you don't make those mistakes.
And there it is. Now, when we look at what took place in Venezuela not too long ago, it all begins to make sense. Venezuela's oil had to be secured before destabilizing the Middle East. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. They're trying to secure their assets. And if Venezuela, if I don't believe because it's communist, that means Masons control Venezuela, okay? But if Venezuela really doesn't have a central bank controlled by the Rothschilds, then here you go. Now it does, right? And they secure the oil through the central banking system. Now, even if they had a previous controlled, government, puppet government controlled by the Rothschilds, they have no problem just getting rid of their goy and putting new goy up for the sake of public appearances, for the sake of public relations. They have no problem scooping up their goy. Kind of like what happened with the Iranian supreme leader the other day. Some people believe that you know, that there is not controlled opposition. I'm not one of them. To me, it all makes sense. It's about public figures and using them as puppets for the screen. That way you can move people, resources, armies, money, the list goes on and on. The people themselves are treated like they don't matter, dude. People like Maduro, they don't matter to the cabal. They don't matter to Israel. They don't matter to the Rothschilds. They use them for the time that they're necessary. So keep your eyes on Iran, but don't let them memory hole Epstein arrests, ring surveillance, Lutnick resignation, data center land grabs, big tech and Department of Homeland Security collusion, Thiel and Epstein's connection, Zorro Ranch. Well, and don't forget Thiel, Epstein, and J.D. Vance. Zorro Ranch investigation, the domestic terrorist database, and immunity for pesticides in these industries, or in the pesticide industry. All of these things need to be brought forth. All of these things need to be examined. But here's the thing, and this is what's really important. You guys, all of these problems right here that I just described, plus what it is that Julian Assange is talking about here, can be solved with some relative simple ease. I'll let him take the mic here, and then I'll tell you what can solve the problem.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan, and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war. Because the goal is not.
Alrighty, so the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war. The goal is to launder the money, right? So what's happening? That's why I was asking, how much of those hypersonic ballistic missiles, how much are they per missile? And who did they buy those missiles from? The same people perhaps that Ukraine got theirs, or Russia got theirs, or India got theirs, or the United States. I'm just wondering, where'd they get the missiles from? Where'd they get the warheads from? How much did each of those cost? How much is the damage caused by all of those missiles? How many civilians died? Because all of that is not the solution. The solution is sending a hypersonic missile to some of these Rothschild estates. The solution is sending, a hypersonic missile to Epstein Island. You see what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand where I'm getting at with this? Real targets, not civilian ones. That's the solution. And that's why they memory hole me. That's why they silo me. That's why they, spy on me. Because I talk about going after the real problem, man. I talk about solving the problem. We have guided missiles, but we have misguided men, don't we? Well said, Dr. King. Well said indeed. So Adam here has a belief about the need for a revolution. We'll talk about it.
I think there should be in the West a human revolution, not a fucking America revolution, a revolution of humanity that we say, hey, we are all tired of being fucked over by a bunch of elderly, corrupt pieces of shit, and we're not going to fucking take it anymore. And if that were to happen, things would change immediately. We need unity amongst humanity, not unity amongst just America. Who gives these motherfuckers the right to control everybody else's life to the point where they fucking can't even barely fucking eat? Right? Fuck them.
It's because of that 8, 8, and 8 work system, right? That 8, 8, and 8 mentality that is essentially Saturnism. Satanism. 8 is a Saturnian number, by the way.
Fuck them all. Okay? They're old, they're weak, they've already lived their lives. It's our turn now, and we need to stand the fuck up and say no fucking more. And that needs to be happening in every Western country in the fucking world. Imagine your fucking 80-year-old grandpa at Thanksgiving, like, just motherfucking you and say, hey, fuck you, I'm fucking do whatever I want. Make it like, bro, I'll fucking throw you in the river, old man.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Like, that's what we need to be doing to these people.
Okay. And that's why I've been saying for a while and going after BB for a while, you know, remember when I said BB, a Piker reaction is quite a fucking thing? Remember how many months ago that was, bro? And it's because I'm just one guy, dude. Imagine if I had the military. Imagine if I had the intel agencies. Imagine if I had the people. And you guys are so afraid of me. You know that I would do things with the system and for the people that would put you all to shame. You know it. You know it. That's why you run scared. So human revolution, I can understand where he's coming from. I dig where he's coming from. But once again, you guys, the revolution is a satanic ritual abuse. Okay, the revolution is the bloodshed and the chaos. We don't want that because then we're going to end up right back where we started. This is the age of Aquarius. We have a chance to actually make new patterns, not repeat historical ones. We have a chance to learn from history and not repeat history. It's what my lawsuit is for. When are you guys going to talk to me about my fucking lawsuit, bro? What is the matter with you people? What are you guys waiting for? I just don't understand what your problem is. I just don't understand why you want the bloodshed, why you want the chaos. It's fucking insane. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Are any of you guys mentally equipped to fight this fucking thing? Because if you guys want shootings, random fucking shootings, I understand this idea of prisoners in prisons or the criminal underground actually getting real justice faster than the government. Believe me, I understand that. And at this juncture, I understand why people are we'll take what we can get as far as justice goes. But here's the thing, dude. First of all, that's only going to take you so far. Okay, before things get really out of hand really fast. And then we're just going to go back to the status quo where these assholes are allowed to continue to do whatever it is that they're doing as long as there isn't a war. Okay, and we want to save the kids. We want to stop the trafficking networks. We want to stop these evil people. Okay, and like that dude was saying, we're dealing with a bunch of old fogies here, bro. Okay, that's why I'm pushing back as hard as I am. But this is the thing. These old fogies have a lot of young people below them that want positions of power that they are more than happy to exploit to cause chaos while we try to take our country back. And so getting those old fogies to surrender as opposed to getting them to just, deploy their chaos agents is important, because once we get those motherfuckers to surrender and we get them to give everybody up or get everybody to surrender, then we don't have to worry about things like a fucking shooting at a nightclub. There's a lot of bullets, dude. It's a lot of bullets. How many of them hit their target? Is that really what we want? No, it's not. It's not what I want. I don't want hypersonic missiles attacking civilian populations, just like I don't want a bunch of gunfire in a crowded club in Austin. Surgical entropy with strategic precision is the mastery of statecraft. Surgical entropy with strategic precision is the mastery of G shit, of gangsta, whatever you want to fucking call it. Solving the problem with as little damage to innocence as possible, little to no damage to innocence, solving the problem with no damage to innocence. That is G shit. That is statecraft. That is diplomacy. That is gangsta. Not pulling out a fucking gun and shooting a bunch of people in a damn club. And according to this, it says it was an Israeli shooter. So this is what I'm trying to tell you guys about how we need to solve this properly. Because if you guys are, oh, well, you need a revolution, well, dude, a lot of innocent people are going to die. And that includes patriots. And you guys don't even know the fight that you're getting involved in. Because these people got psychotronic weaponry. They got fucking directed energy weapons. They got F-15s. They got heart attack guns. They got shit you wouldn't fucking believe. They got little nano-sized drones, fucking little mosquito-like drone things. All sorts of stuff, dude. You got no idea, dude. So all-out revolution is not the answer. An evolution of the mind is the answer. That's what my lawsuit is for. And that's what I'm going to be working on regarding this long-term project that I'm working on that is going to end up crescendoing very soon. And working in with all of these other short-term plans that I have. When you guys see what it is that I'm going to be bringing you, you will understand why my lawsuit is probably your best bet. It's my hope that the lawsuit will be just the tip of the iceberg for those of you that are ready. Because the lawsuit is a part of a much larger mental framework about how we're going to solve these problems, okay? It's about breaking the black magic spell. This is where it gets difficult, though, okay? Because you got people like Adam here, and what he's saying is wrong. What he's saying is right to a certain extent, but also what he's saying is wrong because we don't want revolution because revolution is going to end up with this. You got to remember, we have espionage networks in every single American fucking city. Espionage networks that are like Epstein-style shit, okay? So what about those kids that they have? What about finding the information about other espionage networks? What about finding information about other people and other participants? Do we just want it to be willy-nilly chaos? No, we want this to be strategic. We want surgical entropy. Okay? I've thought a lot about this. And I'm doing everything I can to protect innocence. Cool head is what will prevail here. Because this is what we're dealing with here, guys. This is who Epstein is, bro. And they got networks of these motherfuckers throughout the country, bro. I showed you all that crazy shit from fucking Sedona. I showed you all that crazy shit from Bell Road and from Arrowhead Mall. Kids going missing and shit. I'm telling you guys that if you guys are you're talking revolution and shit, what you're also talking about is basically a lawless nation. Now we're kind of already in a lawless nation considering how compromised law enforcement is and stuff, but we're also talking about like next level of lawless nation. We're talking like third world shit. We're talking about grocery stores not functioning right because vehicles are getting hijacked on the fucking freeway. You don't want that. That's not good for anybody. Okay, it's just not good for anybody. And I understand why there's some people that say, no, dude, trust me, we'd function better without cops because cops are a part of the problem. I get what you're saying, but do you understand what I'm saying? Just like I know that that all gangsters aren't bad, evil people. Not all cops are bad, evil people. Okay, just like there's a lot of bad, evil people that are fucking gangsters, there's a lot of bad, evil people that are cops too. I understand that. But having this dual philosophy or having this dual understanding and seeing how there's shades of gray on both sides is the only thing that's going to cause both sides to unite in the white, both sides to unite in the light, right? Both sides to unite and push back on the dark. But if we're sitting here pointing the finger at each other instead of the fucking Rothschilds, if we're sitting here pointing the finger at each other instead of the Epsteins, if we're sitting here pointing the finger at each other instead of people like Trump and his fucking cabinet that are causing what's going on in Iran, we're pointing the finger at anybody other than the problem, then we are a part of the problem. If you're not proposing fucking solutions other than mass mutual slaughter, then you are a part of the problem. If you're not trying to help us win the mind war by giving people the proper software, the proper information, then you are a part of the problem. Okay? You don't want to open the streets up for gunfire in nightclubs and Epstein's network of weirdos to be moving through the streets at night. You just don't want to do that. Now, some might say, well, that's what's already going on. Okay, well, then if you're one of those people that knows in the underground and you know who these people are and you know what's going on, then why don't y'all just fucking take care of it? I don't understand. If you know where the problem is coming from, and you know how to handle it, and you know the cops aren't going to do it. What, are you expecting Trump to do it? You expecting the sheriff, the cops to do it? What? And you're going to sit there and say, oh, we need a revolution. No. What we need is surgical entropy with strategic precision. If you have the information on who these people are and where these networks exist, then we need to surgically extract those people from that system indefinitely, permanently.
Hi, Ava.
Because check it out. A lot of you guys got stuff online that people like Epstein, they've been watching.
Hi, Ava.
Do you know that man?
She knows.
Happy birthday, Ava. 8 already. Look like you'd a ball with your friends.
Something I want you to try to understand is that if you're one of these people that goes talking about revolution and stuff, the government, the Rothschilds, these people, they got an answer for that too. And they will try to intimidate you. They will try to go after you and your kids. And they do weird shit like this, believe it or not. Maybe not this overt, but maybe this overt, all depending on how overt you are with your campaign to end this shit.
I see you back playing football Thursdays, Ava. Hope your dad picks you up on time for once.
Every time you share their life online, you risk sharing their personal data with the world. Pause before you post.
Okay. Really think about it. How much have you shared online? How much of your information can be exploited and weaponized against you? How much of your information is already being exploited and used and weaponized against you right now by the state of Israel to either distract you from the Epstein files or to divulge how much you know about the Epstein files or get you to believe something that's untrue about the Epstein files, just to compartmentalize you, just to deal with you as a problem? All they have to do is deploy an AI to do all of that. Your digital twin will do it for them. No problem. No problem. Because the digital twin has already identified certain weak points within your psychological framework. That's what it's designed to do. So this is what this 8 and 8 and 8 apparatus has morphed into. A mass mind control machine. Do you understand? Do you see how you have been turned into a commodity? Do you see? Because, you guys, this is key. The system is not meant to serve you. The system is meant to enslave you. Okay? So check this out. Dilly was talking about how Ian Miles Chung admits to working with Epstein trafficking accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. Always wondered why this account, who has that look, came out of nowhere attacking me during my Epstein and Kirk investigation. Now we know he's part of the Epstein network. They're everywhere. Okay? not just in the streets of Austin, not just, streets of LA, not just the streets of Phoenix, Arizona. They're everywhere. They're online. And they are working with people, and think about how much this guy's fucking name and face was all over social media feeds, and how people were like, "Oh, look at what he said. Oh, look at what he said. Oh, check this out." Sharing screenshots and shit, right? Right? Critical factor bypass, and they use compromised intelligence assets. They use people like this guy to do it, to push their propaganda. And how many issues was this guy on the quote unquote right side of? How many things was he saying where it was like, oh man, that's true, or that's true, or well, look, he's calling so-and-so out, or look what he said, he called so-and-so out, right? But he's working with Ghislaine Maxwell the whole time. It's like what I was saying to you guys earlier about Tucker Carlson and about counter intel operatives. Okay, is that they pretend to be on your side. And then when it matters most, then when you need them most, when you're either about to win or the other side's about to lose, that's when they sabotage you. It's espionage, dude. Espionage 101, infiltration instead of invasions. Okay? Now, that being said, this is actually really important because this is getting into like some of the spiritual element to the degradation of our society and our culture and how that has impacted us on like a global scale. Okay. Now, what's also interesting about this is that this principle that we're about to discuss regarding intercourse and regarding genetics is actually something that can also be applied based on national intercourse, like two nations working together, and then they can rub off on each other. You'll see what I'm saying here in a second. Just watch.
Today, I'm reading this book with my cousin, okay? It's a book on marriage. And over here, somewhere in the middle of the book, it's talking about not having sex before marriage. Giving all the reasons of why you shouldn't, and they all make sense. I wish I knew this when I was younger. And then it gets to this one word right here. This word right here, yes. In Serbian, it's telegonia, which means telegony. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Listen to this because, bro, I'm traumatized. Telegony is a biological theory that a woman's previous sexual partners can genetically influence her future children, even if those children are conceived with a different man. Bro, meaning if you had sex with anybody else before the father of your kids, they can genetically influence your actual kids. It gave lots of examples because at first I was like, nah, they lying. I was like, I'm not trying to. Then I say, I can't believe in this because I will be traumatized.
Yeah, you said it. Yes.
And she told me about this apparently
2011 when I was in Canada.
All my friends were like, why are you a virgin? Why are you a virgin? And she's like.
And then I said why, and they didn't believe me. You don't even remember and you were there.
Yeah, I wish you would have shaken me and slapped me up, bro.
So I would do it today.
At first I was like, they lying. Come on, bro. They lying. ChatGPT said this is not real. They were trying to mate horses with zebras and they were experimenting to see if it could happen and it couldn't happen. Years later, the horses went to go mate regular with other horses and the female horses gave birth to horses with stripes on them.
And it's not normal to have stripes on horses.
Bruh, guys, it's not just that. It's horses, it's dogs. They've done it with doves. Says that they was scientifically studied apparently and confirmed for humans too.
I don't think that it would be shared with the world.
It's basically saying that modern science is not confirming this because it would basically stunt this sexual revolution that we're in and fuck up a lot of people's bag because they make a lot of money from sexual revolution. Think of how many things are sexualized or sold. Sex toys and condoms.
People can choose if they want to believe in this or not, but it's totally logical because if it works for animals, don't you think it would work for us? Like a lot of and a lot of people who are working with animals, they saw that and they know that you don't mix species.
Apparently, like if the dogs are having sex with other breeds, then it affects the quality and the purity of their breed.
Yes. We're all sad, Sandra. Don't worry, you're not alone.
Yo, if I knew this when I was younger, like, why did nobody teach me?
I told you this.
Why did nobody teach me to be celibate? Like, how do we get our children to be celibate and not have sex before marriage? How? Let me tell y'all, for anybody that's considering, that's still young, as a 30-year-old woman, I ain't getting shit from sleeping with nobody. Like, literally, I could have went my whole life.
Okay. Now, I got to be honest with you. I understand where they're coming from. And while I understand this idea of no sex until marriage, I don't think that that is a good idea per se, just because human wise, it's a high bar. I know people have done it in the past. Yeah, I understand. And it's a very different world, number one. And number two, I've seen people of the mentality of no sex until marriage, seen where that leads with some of these people. And it's like, it doesn't lead to anything really positive for young people. You know, maybe if you're 30, okay, or over 30, over 30 and you're still, virgin and blah, 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 and you find the right person, I totally get it. But it's like, look, the genetic element to it, there's no denying it. How this relates to who we have children with is obviously very important. This is part of the reason why things like sex trafficking, why things like forced prostitution or just prostitution in general are just so bad. Okay, why it's such a spiritually parasitic enterprise. Okay, and why it must end, why we have to stop it. It's almost like the male sperm is acting like a virus of sorts, because it's changing or like mRNA basically, because it's changing the genetic code. Right now, whether that's happening due to the merger of the bioplasmic or morphogenetic field, or it's happening due to the excretion of fluids in the exchange of fluids, it really doesn't matter. If these things are true, then we should be very, very, very discriminatory about who it is that we share our bodies with. Whether it should be one person for our whole life, or it should be just a small handful of people that you've loved throughout your life, that's, I think, up to you. But at the end of the day, I think it's clear that cross-pollination with, dozens, if not hundreds of people, like say in the porn industry or the prostitution industry, is an enterprise of spiritual parasitism. And people like Jeffrey Epstein not just made a profit from that, but actually used that enterprise to try to spread their seed all in their genetic material all over the planet. All while they're trying to eliminate your genetic material through things like the mRNA vaccine or the mRNA jabs, all while they're trying to limit the progression of your genetic material. What is that? A helicopter? All while they're trying to, limit your genetic material getting into the gene pool. That's Chopper. I didn't think it was a military chopper. I thought it was a police chopper. Anyway, these are the people that are behind the porn industry. These are the people that are behind the sexual exploitation of children in Disney movies. These are the people that are behind the sexualization of kids' music like pop or rap or whatever. Okay, the Epstein crowd, the people of Israel, the Rothschilds. Okay, and remember, Epstein was representing the Rothschilds. All right. So they're the ones that are behind this apparatus of, pushing, hypersexuality. They're the ones that are behind this apparatus of pushing things like sexual identity, okay, that are pushing promiscuity. I don't believe that promiscuity is a good thing. I'll just say this. I've had my fair share of sleeping around in my younger days, okay? Not to say like I was a huge slut or anything, but I've had sex for fun, and there's not much to it. It's actually really empty and joyless. I wouldn't recommend that you do that, okay? And that's why I chose to share this video, because the conclusion at the end of the video was like, I slept with all these people, and and I didn't gain shit from sleeping with that person or that person. Going back in retrospect, I wouldn't have done that, but I had to learn, sex for fun isn't as fun as I thought it would be. right? So that being said, imagine a whole culture that pushes this goy slop is also pushing promiscuity. That's pushing don't ask about the Epstein files is also pushing bomb Iran, right? That's pushing, Zionism is also pushing Jewish supremacy. It's the same system. It's also the same system telling you to go to work for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and pay your taxes so that they can give it to people overseas and launder it through places like Afghanistan or Israel. All the while, they're trying to limit your genetic material in the ecosystem, whether it be through pesticides or pollution or ELFs or whatever, or, through demoralizing propaganda. They're trying to destroy the society and divide you amongst your family and your friends. They're trying to make sure that your community doesn't get together and that you don't actually have a real family with good kids that are raised properly by parents that love each other and stay married. Spiritual bonds are something else, you guys. I'll tell you right now, if and when you have a real spiritual bond with somebody and you really, really, really connect with them, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. You don't want anybody else. You don't want anything else. You're like, no, that's what I'm looking for right there. I found it. Don't need anything else. Making love is a whole lot different than just having sex for fun. That being said, let's talk about how all this stuff relates to nations. We've been getting fucked by Israel, right? And Epstein has been the Rothschild's dick, all right? And he has contaminated the entirety of our country with his networks of bullshit and disease, venereal disease, all right? Our country has a venereal disease, and it's named Epstein. We'll call it the Epstein-Rothschild disease, okay? ERD. Or no, RED, the Rothschild Epstein disease. It's the red. They gave us the red. That's hilarious. So that's essentially the situation here, is that now our national identity or our national gene pool has been influenced by these weirdos and these sickos. And so we're going to have to start making the body inhospitable for these parasites, inhospitable for these gene pools, so they'll get the fuck out. All right. Now, I thought this was really funny considering the video I just showed you, right? About genes and, sleeping with somebody and how that can influence your future children. Imagine how all these, women that married for money are thinking right now.
Hi, baby.
Especially as they're bombing Dubai, right? And these women are looking at these old men and going, this guy's not going to be able to protect me for shit. His money don't mean shit. This fucking nice house don't mean shit if it's rubble after a bomb blows it up.
How are you?
Isn't that funny? It's really a shame what money does to some people. Now, it says genuinely feels like punishment to be this informed. Try to look at enlightenment like its own reward, okay?
If you keep up with current events, you literally sound like a crazy person when you say things out loud. And this becomes more and more true every single day. Like I posted a video about this like maybe 6 months ago. And if you told the 6 months ago version of me the things that we know now, I would be like, what? Like, get your tinfoil hat off. Like the level of conspiracy that it just sounds like when you're just like, yeah, this is a thing that actually happened. This is a thing that's currently happening. You sound insane to even a 6-month-old version of you. Not like born 6 months ago, but like 6 months ago from this date. You would sound insane, let alone a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like literally month to month, we are learning insane levels of information that I feel like we can't even comprehend. To an extent, we can't even comprehend. Like if you were to tell me a month ago something that I know now, I would be like, what? You actually sound insane. And then when you talk to people that don't keep up with current events, which, but but like when you say things out loud, people just look at you like you're crazy. And like you feel like you are crazy because the things that are going on are crazy.
Right? So let's start it over. A couple of things I wanted to say. I had to go in and get more coffee.
If you keep up with current events, you literally sound like a crazy person when you say things out loud. And this becomes more and more true every single day.
Imagine having been there for years and years and years. I've often tried to fathom and grasp the feeling that certain people must have had that knew about Israel, that knew about the truth about 9/11, and then watched all this stuff happen right in, basically putting the world in Israel's palm. I can only imagine what it was like to be them and trying to tell people way back then, no, it was Israel,
Like I posted a video about this like maybe 6 months ago.
Imagine telling those people, no, dude, 9/11 was done by Israel. And they're like, our greatest ally?
And if you told the 6 months ago version of me the things that we know now, I would be like, what? Like, get your tinfoil hat off. Like the level of conspiracy that it just sounds like when you're just like, yeah, this is a thing that actually happened. This is a thing that's currently happening. You sound insane to even a 6-month-old version of you.
That's because the psyops are ramping up. Okay. That's because the loosh is actually running dry. The more and more people realize that the media and the government is a lie. It's because the black magic isn't working. So they have to ramp it up. And not to say that these things aren't true. The things that they're telling us are true, but it's not creating the same kind of loose response. It's not creating the same kind of fear response. It's also, it's about demoralization as well. So by creating amongst this group of people like this guy or you or me, by creating this feeling of like total overload and information saturation of like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to, solve this problem? It's called, you get learned helplessness. Okay. It's called learned helplessness. And you basically just get to this point to where you're like, whatever, I guess I'm just going to have to accept things as they are. And then you just don't fight back at all. It's psychological warfare. So that's part of the reason for all of this, all of these things kind of layering on top of one another. Okay. That's why my lawsuit is so important. That's why these videos are so important. That's why my Mongolian wrestling techniques that I've been teaching you are so important, because they help you to get your arms around the system. They help you to put, the system in a chokehold. They help you to break the system's arms and legs. You see what I'm saying? They help you to understand what it is that you're dealing with here so that you don't feel overwhelmed as you're getting saturated by all this information, as you're getting saturated essentially by the truth.
Not like born 6 months ago, but like 6 months ago from this date, you would sound insane, let alone a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Like literally month to month, we are learning insane levels of information that I feel like we can't even comprehend.
And it's because the consciousness is expanding. The information is being divulged in higher and higher volume to deal with the expansion of consciousness. So the truth becomes more and more radical as our consciousness expands. We learn more and more, but that also tends to in some way or another kind of have this antithetical effect, because it makes us feel more confined, right? As we learn more and we realize little we didn't know and how much we're actually being targeted, then we also kind of at the same time feel slightly confined or attacked. You see what I'm saying? So as our consciousness expands, we also experience the resistance of the system as we begin to learn more and more about how the system is against us.
To an extent, we can't even comprehend. Like if you were to tell me a month ago something that I know now, I would be like, what? You actually sound insane. And then when you talk to people that don't keep up with current events, which, but like when you say things out loud, people just look at you like you're crazy.
My aunt loves Steve Bannon. And when I told her, yeah, Bannon's in the Epstein files, she didn't even know, dude. She had no idea that Bannon was in the Epstein files. And she's like, are you sure? Like, are you sure that's not a hoax? You know? And no, I'm telling you, he's in. How do you know? I was like, well, I read the files. He's all over them. He was even calling Epstein a god in one of them. And she was just appalled because she had been informed by Steve Bannon. She'd learned to idolize Steve Bannon. She'd learned to trust Steve Bannon. You see? And so people that are trying to quote, even people that are trying to quote unquote keep up with current events, even they are going to lose their worldview. Even they are going to have their worldview shattered because all of those apparatuses are maintaining the lie. People like Bannon are like people like Tucker. They're just maintaining the lie for the system. Okay.
And like, you feel like you are crazy because the things that are going on are crazy.
Yes, they are. Things that are going on are crazy.
If you keep up.
And the only way that they're going to become less crazy is when we become more sane, when we stop trusting the fucking government. Okay. Now, this might be somewhat frightening here, but there's a reason why I'm showing you this. Especially considering everything that I've said about COVID, everything I've said about mass mind control, everything I've said thus far about the 8-8-8 system, everything that I've said about the way that we're conditioned and compartmentalized, everything that has been said about AI and transhumanism and people like Yuval Harari and the World Economic Forum and, you know, all of this stuff, what their beliefs are regarding transhumanism and human beings in general and being hackable creatures, all of that, okay? And how all of that connects to Epstein, how all of that connects to the Rothschilds, is important. Correlating all these things together. We're trying to get our arms around the system to, you know, get it in a bear hug or get it in a chokehold here. Okay.
I'm saying these things out of love for my fellow humans. The shot is not medicine. It is an intra-body nano network administered through. What they're finding in people are not blood clots. It is self-assembling, self-replicating nanotechnology. Lipid nanoparticles that have been modified on a molecular level, wrapped in pegylation, polyethylene glycol, one of the components that can be used to make hydrogel. The lipid particles are modified to be more sensitive to heat and frequency. When placed in the human body, they become excited from the heat. In that excitement, they vibrate. With that excitement, magnetofection is created, and the particles slowly drift towards each other, hence self-assembling. This intra-body nano network is the first step to make the human body a device linked into the Internet of Bodies. The shot also changes human DNA, rendering the person a GMO owned by a corporation. This allows for the system to freely harvest psychological, biological, genetic, and physiological.
I think it's interesting because they're using music from the Passion of the Christ soundtrack.
Data from the individual without their knowledge or permission. They are now products owned by the corporation that gave them the poke. At the top of all of those corporations is BlackRock and Vanguard.
Okay. So at the top of all these corporations that own all this shit, we have these investment firms owned by a very, 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 very small percentage of the human population. Literally less than 0.00001% of the human population. Okay. They're the ones that are in control of all the corporations and all of the financial dealings around the world. And therefore they're the ones that are essentially at the what? They're the ones that are at the top of the Sephiroth. They're the ones that are at the top of this really high frequency vibe where they get whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about, you know, food or, you understand what I'm saying? Like they don't have to worry. They're at this really high frequency where everything is taken care of. Whereas they're living the dream. We're living the nightmare so that they can live the dream.
Information is now the new gold, and it will be the foundation for the new financial system coming.
And this is how they were planning on enslaving everybody. This is how they were planning on turning everybody's nightmare into a part of their dream. indefinitely and permanently for generations ahead. This is 5th generation warfare. It's about manipulating our genes, okay? Not just through things like people like Jeffrey Epstein and his networks of baby farms, but also through things like this here. So they target all the genes that are not their own with all these weapons, and then they infiltrate these gene pools and prop their genes up that haven't been impacted by these technologies. And then these gene pools are then going to rule over all the other ones that have been impacted by the technologies.
CBDC. The next step is a quantum dot tattoo that will slowly release quantum micro dots, chips, into the human body, individualizing and authenticating all data for each individual. This is part of a transhuman agenda being initiated upon the population without their knowledge by global elitists working primarily through the WEF, the WHO, the IMF, and other global control systems that are not any part of one government.
And that's very important. So through things like World War I and World War II, as well as things like the banking system, a whole other governing system has been created that is completely outside the purview of the public and completely outside the control of the masses. Something that, because of the global ignorance to these networks or to these groups, these individuals have been able to run things from the shadows. That's why I continue to call the Rothschilds out over and over and over and over and over again, because it is they that are controlling much of these goings on from behind the scenes, from the shadows. Now, there are a number of other families that have chosen to go along with this stuff. Okay, that's very true. But when we look at who's behind a lot of these central banking systems and who's behind the international banking cartels, the Rothschilds' names are the ones that keep coming up.
This technology will link every human being into the Internet of Bodies. It is the foundation for a global CBDC that will be controlled with quantum systems. This technology has the capacity to fully surveil and control every individual.
Now, remember that video I showed you guys of that guy that was driving that Tesla through that graveyard, and you saw those people popping up on the Tesla's reader, the what's it called? For the self-driving cars, there's like the sensors, and it was able to pick up on whether or not there were people in the area, and it would tell you on the sensor whether or not there were people in the area. But as he's driving through the graveyard, there's nobody in the graveyard, but it's saying there's people in the graveyard. Maybe it's because the nanotech was triggering the system. Maybe it's because these people were quote unquote vaccinated with the mRNA jab, with this apparatus. Now, for those of you that took the jab, number one, don't be afraid. For those of you that have been somewhat promiscuous with your body and are worried that maybe there's some people that you probably wouldn't have slept with and you wish you hadn't exchanged, that, don't worry. What you got to understand is that these types of things, like with the mRNA jab, or even things like, what was being said earlier about sleeping with people. These are things that, all depending on how much the extent of the damage or the extent of the alterations is, you can reverse or repair these effects. What you got to remember is that the bioplasmic field, or the electromagnetic field around the body, or the soul, or the spirit, is what creates the schematics for the body. Okay? And as you raise the frequency of your consciousness, so to also cause your genes to mutate, or cause your genes to evolve to adapt to those higher frequencies. Okay. So this is part of why it is that I'm telling you guys that we can heal the vax injured. You just have to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. It's really that simple. Now, there's going to be some people out there that say, oh no, it's impossible. I'm telling you, it's possible. I know 100%. I know 100% it is possible to heal the vax injury. okay, through a myriad of different ways. But that is not a profitable thing, not only because it'll expose all the vax injured and the crimes of the pharmaceutical companies, but also because it'll also bankrupt the pharmaceutical companies by exposing the fact that there's all of these cures for all of this stuff, not just, vax injured people, that double as vax injured medicine. Okay, there's all this stuff that can help vax injured and a bunch of other ailments. Do you understand? So they don't want to bring that to the forefront because it's going to totally change the medical industry. Hello, what stage of awakening are you in? Now, the kind of stuff that we can use to repair the DNA or repair the body or the bioplasmic field, both in the case of mRNA injections and promiscuity, are largely the same. The promiscuity element, you just got to be quote unquote abstinent / celibate for a certain amount of time and focus your consciousness on blah, blah, blah. There's all sorts of ways you can get back into the divine and get back into these higher frequencies and have your genes essentially quote unquote repaired or cleansed. Okay. But when it comes to the vax injured, we're also going to have to talk about not just spiritual transformation, because that is pertinent and powerful and important, but also physical ones as well. We're talking about certain types of food being ingested or vitamins, as well as certain types of frequencies bombarding the body, positive frequencies that are bombarding the body to help reshape the bioplasmic electromagnetic field, as well as the DNA in the tissue. Okay, but it is possible. And similar to how you are able to, say, use fungi to consume toxic chemicals, and the fungi is able to convert the toxic chemical into an organic substance. The human body is able to convert this evil satanic system and all of its chemicals into a benign organic substance. The human body is able to, or the earth itself, the human species, is also able to consume this toxic system, this satanic system, and convert it into an organic material that we can actually use to upgrade our species, similar to how fungi will upgrade and evolve to consume a toxic chemical or substance. We as humanity can upgrade our bodies and the earth itself, our culture, to consume these toxic chemicals and these toxic systems that are destroying us. Now, the boomers are the ones that got in line and were the ones that pushed the Operation Warp Speed. These are the people. Okay, and I'm not trying to be mean or dickish, but it's like what that Adam dude was saying earlier about how, like, look, bro, these people are fucking old. They're getting in our way. They're refusing to back down because they're a bunch of fucking child molesting pieces of shit. When are we going to string them the fuck up? These people have been brainwashed for a very long time, and they've been brainwashed by these goyim that deserve to be strung up. I know you're hungry. They deserve to be strung up, these goy, because they've been misleading these people for generations, for decades, bro. And they got everybody in these mind-controlled robotic mentalities where they think bombing Iran is a good thing, okay? Where they think getting this mRNA jab is, a good thing, and trust the doctors, trust the experts, trust Fauci. It's that mentality. It's that mass mind-controlled generation, bro. And I hate to say it because I love my grandfather, I love my grandmother, but dude, I've noticed as a man, as an objective creature, as somebody that is like looking at things objectively, I've noticed this proclivity amongst the boomers and this generation, even my mom's generation, where they just kind of nod their head and go along with the agenda. They don't really like dive too deep into it. My mom is, good at when it comes to thinking outside the box, but even sometimes with her, she still practices Catholicism. She still goes to church, even though she's seen the evils of the church, even though she's seen what it's become. She's still of that mentality because she doesn't want to give up what it is that she had in her childhood, that feeling that she got close to God, which is not a bad thing. You can, but it's like, you don't want to do so through a satanic fucking church, dude. But everybody's got their path, and I don't judge. All right. What I can do is say, I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my bubble. I'm not going to absorb that philosophy. I'm not going to allow that group to affect me and what I believe. Okay. Because they're all these not all, many of them, most of them have become these mind controlled drones, dude. And they think that it's fun to bomb Iran and make a song about it. You guys realize the amount of dedication and time that it would take to create a song and then sing a song and play an instrument in front of the camera that's celebrating the bombing of another country? Remember, this song is from when? Like the 50s and the 60s? Around the boomers' time?
You're messing with the Jews, you're always gonna lose. It's God's plan, and God rules the land. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb.
Remember what I was saying about Glenn Beck yesterday and about how these people are indoctrinated to just trust authority and to give their mind over to authority. These people are indoctrinated to just basically do what they're told when they're told, like these boomers here dancing. That the boomers are all supposed to move like this in mass across the country based on the television, based on the radio, based on the newspapers, based on the magazines, based on critical factor bypass and neurolinguistic programming. They didn't realize that they were victims of Operation Paperclip. They didn't realize they were victims of MK Ultra. They didn't realize that they were victims of this mind control apparatus that was literally abducting and trafficking their kids and eating them and then covering it up for decades. They didn't realize that was the case, but that is the case. And we, this generation, are realizing that that's what happened to them, and we are not going to let that happen to us. Hello. Okay? So this idea of bombing Iran and celebrating it and like making a song about it. Do you see the mentality? Do you see how it's like, oh, we're just going to trust authority. We're going to bomb Iran because if you mess with the Jews, it's our land. And the Bible says, and my pastor said, and the AI Jesus said, the AI George Washington said. What does your heart say? Oh, you don't know how to use that anymore. Interesting. What does your mind say? Oh, you don't know how to use that anymore either, do you? So you got this boomer generation that has been brainwashed to trust Goy who traffic the children, right? And then cover it up. Okay. You got people using propaganda and old songs from the 50s and 60s to get these people to dance in line on after watching Fox News or whatever and think that bombing Iran is a good thing, not, going and instead of going after Epstein's clients, we should be going after illegal immigrants, right? That's how these people are so mind controlled, so like into their bubble that they would think singing a song about bombing Iran based on a song from the 50s or the 60s is somehow a good idea. All the while, children are being trafficked and have been being trafficked by this generation for generations, for decades. This says, Karen Mulder isn't just a supermodel. She's the original Epstein whistleblower who had her life destroyed for speaking out. She lost her career, was placed on medication, and even admitted to a psych ward for daring to tell the truth. Sounds like the Changeling, doesn't it? It also sounds like what happened to Leo Zagami, the author of The Confessions of an Illuminati. And yet her story remained buried for years. It's a reminder that speaking truth to power often comes at a heavy cost. In an industry obsessed with appearance and silence, Karen was a rare voice of integrity. But instead of being celebrated, she was ridiculed and pushed to the margins. Oh, sound familiar? Her career was destroyed, and her mental health was weaponized against her. Yet she kept pushing forward, refusing to be silenced. Today, Karen's courage is finally being recognized. Her story is a beacon for anyone who has ever spoken out, only to have their truth dismissed. The world owes her not just recognition, but respect for her bravery and an apology for suppressing the truth. people like, this right here, this generation suppressing the truth and instead, making up songs about bombing foreign countries as opposed to arresting the people that did this, as opposed to insulating the people that are, like her, bringing this to light. This is what happens when you have this 8 to 8 to 8 system. This is what happens when you have this mass brainwashing system where you trust the people that say the things that you want to hear on TV, when you trust the people that say the things that you want to hear behind the podium, but when nothing gets done. This is what happens with that system. This is how it operates. They show you what they're doing. They tell you what they're going to do. Then they do it. And they do it again and again and again. And if you stand up, they marginalize you and they try to destroy you. If you stand up, then they literally will either kill you or destroy you financially or destroy your career. And it's because of the lack of personal thought. It's because of the lack of logical deduction on behalf of whole generations of people that didn't even realize that they were being mind controlled by Ashkenazi fucking Jews, bro. That didn't even realize that their kids are being trafficked by ball worshiping demons. But this is the situation, man. This is the situation. And we got CIA contractors caught trafficking children through an airport at 5 a.m. Look at this. The government is sponsoring the child trafficking rings. That's why they aren't bringing them to an end, you guys, because the government is sponsoring the slave trade. This corporate system is sponsoring the slave trade.
You said that you were on vacation, and now you're moving this small child to the airport. I thought you were on vacation. Ma'am, I thought you were on vacation. What happened to that? Do you have any comment about children that have gone missing that you've helped to escort across the country?
No.
We have footage here that a lot of these children don't know the sponsors that they are going to. What's going on? There's kids in the car here. They're moving these kids. They just turn the lights off. This is the MVM headquarters that we are currently at. There are kids in this van right here that they are moving. There's somebody that's going to come out. Let's see what they have to say. Hey, are you a manager here? Hey, we've spoken to some of these children, and they tell us that they don't know a lot of times the sponsors that they're going to. Do you have any comment on that at all? No. This is MVM, correct? I'm not sure. You're not sure. Excuse me. What's going on here? There they go. And notice they got out of here in such a hurry that they just left their bags here. Think about that. They got out of here. We don't even know what's in those bags. They just left them there and they took off in the van in such a hurry because that's how secret this operation is. They do not want you to know what is going on. That van that we just confronted, they are now taking off. We are following them. We believe that they're taking these kids to the airport. We have talked to some of these children that you guys escort, and some of these children have told us that their friends don't know the sponsors that they're going to. Are you okay with that? Excuse me, why are you all wearing masks? Do you have any comment on that? Why are you hiding your identity? Do you have any shame, sir? There's still time to redeem yourself. Would you like to see the footage that we caught of the girl and what's going on? Were their IDs even checked just there? Were their IDs even just checked? Who checked their IDs? I didn't see any ID check just there. There was no ID check. Right. Why weren't their IDs checked? If I was going to go here, I can't talk to you about that. I'm going to ask you, why do you guys ID American citizens when these children can't do you guys an ID number? I'm not going to say anything like that.
Are a lot of the kids coming over here, are they trafficked or like what's the?
Some are. I'm not gonna lie. Some are.
Does that happen a lot that the kids come over here with a totally fake name?
It has.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to verify.
And so they come over here with a fake name and then they just come up with one. They just get a brand new identity. They could be anybody.
Have you seen the movie?
Sound of Freedom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Exactly like that. Shit happens.
You guys get the kids coming over here with the notes that are attached to them with the addresses, right? And a lot of times that just lead to like a sex trafficker or something, right? That's legit.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit that we can't tell.
What's the issue though? Why can't you guys talk on camera?
It's the policies that we have, things that we can and can't say.
But why don't they want you talking on camera?
Politics.
Politics. What, like making the administration?
Remember, Remember what Assange said, that it's not about national security, it's about political security. This is why what I'm saying is that when you guys have new leadership, when you guys are ready to grow a pair and put me in charge publicly, then you're really going to start seeing some transformations. Okay? Because then the political security goes out the window and national security becomes a priority.
Like that, or damn.
Honestly, bro, I really wish there was more people like you.
Yeah.
Exposing this shit.
Yeah.
Because it sucks. It truly is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
It is a horrible thing. But me, I can't do that.
You could blow the whistle.
See, and here's the thing. All of these people have been compartmentalized. They feel alone. They feel like they're on their own. And they're not going to, how are they going to challenge the system? They don't even know how big the system is. They don't even know how to get their arms around it. Okay. They don't know this form of psychological or mental wrestling. They don't know spiritual wrestling. They don't know how this shit works. Okay. So that's why me telling you guys how to do this, what to do, what to look for, how we can work together is so important.
No, I can't.
You could, but you're going to lose your job.
Yeah, exactly.
You work for MVM.
That's why he doesn't want to lose his job. He's got kids to feed, right? He's like, maybe he's got a family. Maybe he's been threatened already.
And MVM is an organization that has moved thousands.
I don't work for you.
You do not work for MVM?
I'm on vacation.
We've now landed in Houston, and it appears as if MVM has requested a police escort because they don't want media exposing what they're doing. But if you look, they have all of the kids wearing masks and they have them keeping their head down. All of the kids wearing masks, keeping their head down.
Why would the government state sponsor slavery? Because it's run by the Rothschilds, because it's run by Epstein, because it's run by these Sephardic Jew bloodlines that came over here during 1492 and afterward and set up camp in places like Epstein Island and the Virgin Isles for their slave trade, set up in places like the South and those 3 ports in the South for the slave trade. That's why. And they've been running shit over here ever since. It's why they exterminated the Native Americans, smallpox blankets and massacre after massacre and things like the Trail of Tears, because these people are fucking evil and they believe in their own genetic superiority. They're trying to dominate the gene pools of the planet and take it over in a 5th generation warfare kind of sense.
They're telling them to hide their face. Many of these kids go missing. You said that you were on vacation, and now you're moving this small child to the airport. I thought you were on vacation. Ma'am, I thought you were on vacation. What happened to that?
Isn't that
Do you
odd?
have any comment about children that have gone missing that you've helped to escort across the country?
So we're in this situation because these motherfuckers, people like Levin or Graham or Cruz or Trump or Fine, even younger generations like Loomer and Shapiro, these types have been the people spewing the propaganda. But it's not just them. You've also got people like Cory Booker, I believe is who else? Dang it, I can't believe I'm forgetting the name, because it's not just Cory Booker. There's they call him Dollar Store Obama. I cannot believe I'm forgetting dude's name, bro. But Dollar Store Obama took money from AIPAC, bro. Okay. Chuck Schumer, huge fucking Jew AIPAC guy. Okay. These are the people that have been on both sides. People like Don Lemon, right? People like, Anderson Cooper. They're in the media too. They're Zionists. They're just the controlled opposition, right? They'll call out the Pentagon, but they won't call out the CIA, right? Do you see? It's 2 sides of the same coin. These are the people that are responsible for the system being the way that it currently is. Because if they wanted to transform the system as it currently is, they could, but they don't. That's why people like Cruz went out there and be like, let's stop attacking pedophiles. Yeah. How about no, Scott? Okay. The magnitude of the problem is such when you look at this situation here and their infiltration.
You said that you were on vacation.
Their infiltration into the military-industrial complex. When you look at the child trafficking, how long it's been going on with things like the Finders and stuff like that, or all the way back to things like Operation Paperclip. And ever since we brought the Nazis over, kids were going missing. The testimony of whistleblowers like this woman, when we factor in the brainwashed nature of the people doing all this, the size and the magnitude and the scale of the problem is something that you have to put into perspective over time. You have to look at things over time, and you have to see the pattern over time, layer after layer after layer after layer after layer after layer, step by step by step by step by step by step by step, to see the perspective, to see the true magnitude, the true proportions of the problem. That's going to require all of these steps and real perspective, real objectivity. That is what is going to be required here. That's why I'm trying to tell you guys about things like the Separat and the Keparat and all that stuff, so that you can understand how these people's system works and how we can use it to beat them. Okay, so that's why calling out the Rothschilds from the beginning has been my MO. Okay, even in including the stuff from the beginning of this live, because the Rothschilds are the people that are all these steps away. The Rothschilds are the people that are being insulated by all these layers of deception. It's the Rothschilds who have control over these Epstein-controlled espionage networks, okay? Because Epstein's working for the Rothschilds. We have to put it into perspective to see the magnitude of the problem and then approach it appropriately, okay? So, oops, dang it. This guy does a good job. I think that people are starting to see things differently, but I wonder why he's watching Fox News.
It's on Fox News right now because you guys see.
I don't understand why the television is on. Your time and attention, you guys. Where are you devoting your time and attention? If that's even on your television for 30 seconds, you're part of the problem. We don't want to give them any ratings, you guys. None whatsoever. But here's the thing. He does a good job of breaking down how the propaganda works.
Currently watching this on Fox News right now because you guys see what they're talking about. And they not saying anything about who started it, who did it first. It's all about making sure we paint the Islamophobic, crazy, irrational Muslims that did some shit they had no business doing. Oh my God, why they do it. Now, me understanding that Fox News lost a lawsuit where they tried to argue they're not news. In fact, they're entertainment. But now they take on this authority politically and try to tell us what's going on in Iran. Look.
First to the innocents on the ground. But, you know, the only thing mightier than our amazing U.S. military is when you combine that amazing U.S. military with the Israeli military. And this is a war of good versus evil. What was the U.S.
combining what with what? Oh, y'all care about that? It's a one single issue. No, it's not. We see that this politically, socially, economically is not only affecting America, but affecting the entire global community. And we say we know who we're doing it by, who the ally is. And we know that they manufacturing this narrative so they can bring about the greater project. This is how I go, literally. I'm going to wage war with you, get you to engage back. Get down, whoop your ass, and then justify annexing and taking some of your land because you lost the war. You lost. It's the game.
See, he gets it. But I just think it's interesting. I try not to bounce things off of some of these news organizations. That's like earlier what I said about Anderson Cooper and CNN. Because if I'm going to share a clip like that, I'm going to say, first of all, this is not a reliable institution. But if we know that they have to tell us what they're doing, maybe that's the reason why they're telling us this. I don't know. You know. Maybe they're also trying to take down, you know, they're a different faction within their secret society community. I dig what he's saying, though. He's breaking it down, and this is what he is saying. I think that is so important. And what he's saying about how what it is that they're doing is going to affect every element of our lives, economically, politically, socially, etc. Right? So all of our lives. All these elements to our lives are going to get affected by their narrative and their deception. That is very important because at this juncture, the magnitude of the problem is such that most people haven't taken the necessary steps away from their phone in order to put together the enormity of the issue. Most people haven't taken the necessary steps away from their phone to put the world into the proper perspective. Okay, they haven't taken the necessary steps away from the television or away from the screen. And that's what those old folks, that's what the baby boomer generation has the problem doing, is walking away from the screen, walking away from the stimuli. They get addicted to this idea of being informed, okay, or this idea of learning what's going on or whatever. When in fact, what it is they've gotten addicted to the dopamine cycle or whatever. They've got addicted to this propagandized mind control cycle that causes them to feel afraid and then reassures them, causes them to feel afraid, then reassures them. And it does that by giving them a boogeyman that the government created and then giving them the solution that the government created. So this, I think, is hilarious. And I think that maturing is realizing why this commercial got banned, because it would end up spreading like wildfire. Let's say metaphorically speaking, we're all done with the bullshit. We all can see the larger pattern at this point. We all can see that we're being played for fools. There's enough people have taken the steps necessary away from their phone to recognize the truth of the matter. And now they're coming back to their phones and they're starting to organize. Okay. And they're starting to basically say, fuck the system. Okay.
What's that?
That's a swear jar. Every time someone swears, you put a quarter in it.
Who gets the money?
I don't know. We'll use it to buy something for the office, like a case of Bud Light or something.
Fucking awesome.
Now, instead of a case of Bud Light, because we all know what that's about, I think what's happening now is that everybody's saying fuck the system because they're uniting to save the kids. People are saying fuck the system because in the same breath they're saying we need to save the kids.
F you, Bob.
F you, Jim.
Eric, I have a bag on line 3 for you.
Can I borrow your pen? Can I borrow your f***ing pen?
Will the owner of a white station wagon please go yourself?
We're going to go down there and we're going to some. We're going to some. We're going to do whatever we have to because we're going to some.
Whoa.
Doesn't count.
Shut the up.
I am so proud of you mother suckers. Here, here.
Refreshingly smooth Bud Light. Always worth it.
What's that?
That's funny, isn't it? We're seeing some changes because people are saying fuck the system, save the kids. I thought this was something interesting. Why would Jim Carrey, a man whose entire career has essentially depended on his ability to make funny facial expressions that others can't, get face-altering Botox? Why would he? Perhaps there's a different reason that we don't know. Things are changing, but things are also kind of staying the same. This is Robert Richards, heir of the chemical billionaire family, the DuPonts. He admitted to raping his 3-year-old daughter in 2009. He said that he feels horrible. He told the judge, according to court documents, there's no excuse for what he has done to her, according to what he said. His lawyer, calling the 6'4", roughly 300-pound Richards a somewhat gentle person, argued he, quote, would not fare well, end quote, in jail. Hours later, Richards walked away from Delaware Superior Court a free man. He pleaded guilty to a charge of rape in the 4th degree, paid a fine of $4,395, and promised to attend high-end treatment center in Massachusetts. But he's still walking free. And this is why I understand why some people say, dude, the cops ain't going to give you the justice that we're looking for. The cops ain't going to give you the justice you're looking for. I totally get it. And this is why I say what it is that I've said before, which is like, without condoning or condemning, I understand. This This I cannot understand, though. This is incomprehensible. This guy should be locked behind bars. This guy should be getting the freaking treatment inside of a prison. Peter Mandelson enjoying a foot massage by one of Jeffrey Epstein's sex slaves. Mandelson is sitting on one of Epstein's leopard-spotted dining room chairs in his Manhattan house. I wonder if it's real leopard spots. This guy resigned or something, right? Or he got arrested. I'm sorry, I think he got arrested. But I think that's it. We've only had 2 arrests. Both of them, I think, got released shortly after they were arrested. Just like this guy right here, getting away with shit. I'm tired of things like this where you're like, oh, you got to read between the lines. You got to read between the lines. How about you read between these lines right here? Okay? We want real justice. We want real hangings. We want real justice, okay? We want real justice. We want people like this either behind bars or fucking taken out back, okay? Because we're tired of this read between the lines bullshit. And I'm telling you guys that read between the lines bullshit is going to end up getting people torn apart in the fucking streets, okay? I'm just telling you, dude. Because I've seen it. I don't want that to happen. Clearly, I don't want civilian populations targeted. Clearly, I don't want, shootings in clubs. Clearly, I don't want innocent people hurt. Clearly, I just want to solve the problem with surgical entropy and strategic precision. And as more and more people are on my side, and that seems to be happening more and more every day, as more and more people are on my side, which is actually God's side at this point. It's just the right side. It's the right side of history. It's the truth. Only I'm trying to guide people toward a peaceful way of dealing with this with the least casualties possible. Whereas you have these other people pushing for revolution that's going to create a lot of casualties. As people come to this side, as people come to the truth, as people see the light, and they also recognize the dark, the Zionists don't even ask you to support them anymore. They just look at you like this. Because that's pretty much where it's at. On a spiritual level, like on a metaphysical level, this is where it's at. They cannot run. They cannot hide. They can barely breathe. And they can barely fight back. Now, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for you and your family or for humanity? I'll tell you what it means. What it means is a change in culture. What it means is a change in perception. What it means is a change in your life and your role in the world. It means a change in your relationship with yourself.
It's absolutely insane that if you sat in silence for 10 minutes every day with no stimulation, and then you stop using words poorly against yourself and stop judging everyone, including yourself, and then you wrote 5 things that you're grateful for every single morning after you woke up before touching your phone, and then you walked outside for 30 minutes every day, just got some fresh sun, fresh air, and then read 1 page in a book and just filled your mind with positivity and new perspectives, your life would immediately get better, literally after the first day. And if you did that for 30 days straight, anxiety, gone, at least more manageable by far. Depression, non-existent. Happiness level skyrockets. It's really that easy.
What if it was? What if making those simple changes every day was what it took to unlock your full potential or begin to unlock your full potential? Imagine all of these people right here. This is Athens, Greece, anti-Zionist protests happening in Athens, Greece. Thousands of Greek people marching in front of the U.S. Embassy to protest against Zionism. The whole world is turning against Israel. Well, isn't that just special? And I'm glad. Good. Thank God. We need to boycott these people. We need to take away their funding. We need to have them look at all of us like this. Okay? And this gives us the ability to just walk away and let them inherit their demons. Let them inherit their weight. Let them inherit their inability to fight back. Okay? But here's the other thing. Imagine if all of these people right here understood what it is that I'm telling you. Imagine if all these people right here understood the things like about Tesla towers or Salvador Payas's patents. Imagine if all these people understood the things about like the cures for cancer or how these technologies that are being suppressed from us can actually help the vax injured to heal. Imagine if these people understood the truth about World War II and where Hitler actually died, or if people understood what's going on in the deep underground military bases. Imagine if just this small group of people started making all of these changes that this guy was talking about in this video. Imagine if that is the changes that they made. Instead of just going out in the street and holding signs, which I'm glad to hear, it's good. Absolutely, be out there, right? But imagine if you guys made these kinds of changes so that you were more tightly knit as a community, so that your phone wasn't so directly affecting your behavior or impacting your thought process. That divinity and God and the divine and the forces of creation, that was actually influencing your thought process more than your phone, you see, more than the black mirrors and the influencers on them. Because people like Tucker Carlson not leading you guys where it is that you want to go, even though they're saying the things that you want them to say. And it's the same thing across the board. People like Trump, right? They might be saying some of the things that you want to hear, but they're not doing the things that they said they were going to do, or even the things that you want them to do. So giving your mind to God, giving your heart to God, giving your heart and your mind the time necessary to develop them is essential. And the only way to do that is to get away from your phone. The only way to do that is to get away from the mind control apparatus, at least in the beginning of your day. So win the morning, win the day, right? Sometimes you guys, guardian angels, look exactly like this. You may not necessarily understand the reason for it. It may not necessarily make sense at the time, but God has a plan and God has a reason. I may be harsh sometimes, you guys. I may be kind of a dick, but that's only because I've been treated like shit. Okay. And I've had more and more and more demanded of me with less and less and less being given. Okay. And I still show up because I care about you, because I love you, because I'm trying to help humanity, because I'm trying to help rescue this planet and its people from a very real interdimensional evil that most people can barely fucking comprehend. So I may make some quote unquote dick move sometimes, but maybe it's because I'm trying to protect you, not trying to hurt you. And maybe it's because I see things at a higher dimension or from a higher vantage point than you do, so I can see certain things coming. Thereby, it might be a good idea to take my advice on things in the future. Okay. Don't be like this guy right here. All right. Don't be like this guy. This is actually pretty funny. Do not be like one of these people with critical logic.
I liked his words, not like he did everything he said he was going to do when he did it. Nope. I liked his words, not like he did everything he said he was going to do when he did it.
So what are some of those things that he said and then he did? Just one thing he said and then he did.
He caught me off guard there. I just...
How about that, huh? Trump ain't done shit. So here's millennials realizing they're about to live through their fourth once-in-a-lifetime economic collapse. So when I think about trying to look through other people's eyes, I've looked through the eyes of the elderly and the baby boomers. I've looked through the eyes of people like my mother's generation. I've looked through the eyes of my own generation, or even people a couple years older or younger than me. But I've also looked at the world through the eyes of this up and coming generation, the millennials and the Gen Zers, right? I've looked at it through their perspective and realized these people are really concerned because they're looking at all these adults and they're seeing that these very real adults, these very real supposedly mature leaders are actually anything but. They're like children. They're like high school kids. and the world is falling apart, and they seem to be okay over there because, you know, they're the goy, you know, in the goy system, but everybody else is screwed, including these millennials and Gen Zers. And so you go, these people are going, well, what are we going to do? How is the world going to look when we're there, when we're their age? What kind of situation are we going to be in? And I know this because this is what I thought of around their age when I was, you know, the millennials or the Gen Zers age. Okay. These are things I thought about where I looked around and I was like, what the fuck are we going to do? And that's when I started planning. That's when I started fighting back, all the way back in 2004 when I had these visions of the future. Okay. Of Barack Obama winning the presidency in 2008 and creating a caliphate in the Middle East, 10 countries. And, you know, it basically being the Antichrist or the Beast of Revelations, and this being the end times. I saw Hillary Clinton running in 2016 and losing. It was just all this stuff that I saw in this vision. It's like, dude, you got to get to work. You can prevent this Holocaust. You can prevent this global takeover. You can prevent this global nightmare if you're just willing to sacrifice. So that's where all of these plans and all of these ideas and all this stuff that's coming in handy right now, that's like perfect for right now, that's where it all comes from, is from me being in this situation, like these millennials, like, you know, these other generations, and coming to these conclusions and being like, well, this is what we can do. This is how we can do it. This is how we solve that problem. 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 And we can get this organized this way, this way, this way. We can link these up like these in the gears, like in a machine that rivals this evil death machine over here. Except we can make it symbiotic with the environment over here. We can reverse all the pollution and all the damage over here. I have all these ideas, all these ways of solving the problem because I know the feeling, guys. I know the feeling. Israel or Jews are 100% mask off at this point, right? They're in mask off mode right now. They know everybody notices the power and the influence that they wield and their abhorrent behavior, and they do not seem to care. Full-on censorship, full-on propaganda, full-on blackmail, full-on war. Their thirst for blood and power is insatiable. And that's very true. That's why they bombed a school or 2 schools, because they literally killed 100 kids in schools because they worship Baal and Moloch, the demon of, or god of child and human sacrifice, and by fire nonetheless. So why do you guys think that these people dig tunnels? Why do you guys think that they have things like these tunnels all throughout Europe and have had these tunnels all throughout Europe for literally centuries? Why do you guys think that that's one of the first things that they did when they got here? You know, deep underground military bases, these tunnels in places like New York. Why do you think that is? Remember that guy saying that the Jews get the Goyim to build their hotels, get the Goyim to build their buildings and all that stuff? And remember that video I showed you, the hotel that had the trap door in the tunnel, that KFC that had that tunnel underneath? You remember all that? Kentucky Fried Chicken? Isn't chicken a pedophile code word? Just saying, like, why do you think they dig the tunnels, you guys? Why do you think they've been doing this for thousands of years? And do you think they're going to stop? If they've been abducting children and bringing them into these underground tunnels and sacrificing them and drinking their blood and eating their flesh and doing these satanic rituals for thousands of years, do you think they're going to stop digging underground tunnels, abducting children, bringing them into them, drinking their blood, eating their flesh the way that they have for thousands of years? Do you think they're going to stop? No, they're not. So that's why they have to be kicked out. That's why they've been kicked out of all these different countries, as opposed to just being mass executed, as opposed to being mass exterminated. They're kicked out because it's just inhumane, even though they're willing to do mass exterminations against other people, even though they're willing to do mass exterminations against other gene pools. These other gene pools look at that and they say, well, that's inhuman. Just get them the fuck out of the country. That's why I'm telling them they need to go back to Astana. They need to go back to the Caucasus Mountains, to Ukraine. They need to get the fuck out while they still can. The demons and the Dybbuk's can stay in Israel, though, because earthquake's coming. They're going to be swallowed by the earth. At least that's what I was told. We'll see what happens. Ron Paul, Israel should take care of themselves, right? So we've been saying the same shit for a long time, right? We've been saying the same shit for a long time. These evil people should be taking care of themselves. But remember what happened to Ron Paul. The system marginalized him. The system compartmentalized him. It suppressed him in his voice. The people wanted Ron Paul both in 2008 and in 2012. Okay. But the Republican National Convention would not allow his supporters into the convention because they wanted McCain, because they wanted Romney. Why? Because McCain and Romney were establishment. Because they could run McCain and Romney and know that Obama would win. If they ran Ron Paul, he would actually be the real hope and the real change that Obama was pretending to be.
Why does Israel need our help? We need to get out of their way. I mean, we interfere with them. We interfere with them when they deal with their borders, when they want to have peace treaties. We tell them what they can do because we buy their allegiance and they sacrifice their sovereignty to us. And then they decide they want to bomb something. That's their business, but they should, suffer the consequences. When they bombed the Iraqi missile site, nuclear site back in the 80s, I was one of the few in Congress that said it's none of our business and Israel should take care of themselves. Israel has 200, 300 nuclear missiles and they can take care of themselves. Why should we commit? We don't even have a treaty with Israel. Why do we have this automatic commitment that we're going to send our kids and send our money endlessly to Israel?
Now, really quick, this is important. This is part of the problem. I love Ron Paul, and what he's saying here is 100% accurate, but this is part of the problem, and this is why Ron Paul was not successful, okay? He has to fit all of that in a very short amount of time, a small little snippet, a small little soundbite, okay? And then another candidate gets to get up there and say his passionate little spiel in a minute or two, and then another one, and then they're all debating and interrupting each other and blah, 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 blah. And then the truth that he's talking about gets lost in the shuffle, okay? And the mentality of the people watching this stuff, their attention span is at the most a minute because of the way that commercials or advertising or the way that even just Hollywood movies have narrowed our attention span. We talked about that before, right? This is part of the psychological warfare apparatus. Narrow our attention span, feed us a bunch of poison, distract us with entertainment, disinform us with propaganda, and keep us all in the dark. So people like Ron Paul that have real messages for the people don't actually get the forefront. They don't get the leadership position because the public leadership position is reserved for only those who are willing to go with the compromise system. This is why I'm telling you guys, both in the military and the intelligence agencies, both at home and abroad, you guys are better off just going with my lawsuit and recognizing the United States constitutional republic's authority and national citizenship. Okay?
Why does Israel?
So, that being said, it's an airplane. This is why I say we're going to get back to God's side. Because now that we're finally starting to kick these people out, now that we've finally recognized the truth as in mass and the collective consciousness is shifting, we're all living in the light and they're all trying to maintain their darkness and their deception. Now that that shift has taken place so dramatically, there is a tremendous shift taking place within the Jewish community or the Ashkenazi community. We saw what was taking place in Israel. We saw that their Iron Dome is failing. We've also seen that their global propaganda apparatus is failing. But we've also seen how it is that the mask is being worn now by Iran to a certain extent because they're also bombing civilian locations. Okay? They aren't bombing strategic military locations in Israel. They're not bombing the Wailing Wall. They're not bombing the courthouse in Jerusalem. They're not bombing the proper military locations. They're bombing civilians. So these people are willing to sacrifice some of their own just so that they can, the people at the top that are trying to stay in the Sephiroth, they're more than willing to sacrifice their own people if they can just stay in the Sephiroth, okay? They're more than willing to sacrifice their own people and turn more of their own people's lives into living nightmares just so that they can have the dream. And they're more than willing to say, go to another country and begin to cannibalize and prostitute their children to do so. Okay. They're more than willing to go to, say, places like China. Here's God's side to all Jews around the world. He's asking them to consider Cantonese and Mandarin and keep your fingers crossed that China allows you in. This might be because the only safe place for Jews in 20 years is China, according to him. Tragic but true. And I don't know, bud. I don't think after the way you guys have treated the Chinese people, I don't think you're going to get much of a warm welcome there. As soon as Xi Jinping is, taken care of by the Chinese people, they're going to have a whole different system. They don't like what they got going on over there. And there's a lot of people in China that are really, really tired, like older dynasties that were suppressed and destroyed and had to go underground because of the communists, because of the fucking Jews, dude. So I'm just telling you, you guys may not necessarily know the extensive nature to your opposition in China. You may not necessarily get as warm of a welcome as you might have thought. I suggest you, like I said, go to Astana, go to Ukraine, go to the Caucasus Mountains, go back to where you fucking came from, or we'll send you back. And that could either be hell or to Kazakhstan. So you got people like J.D. Vance still associating with these Ashkenazis and this idea of immigrants coming in the country being quote unquote anti-Semitic. We're not anti-Semitic. We just don't like people that traffic children and eat them.
Pretty bad immigration problems, right? Because definitionally, when you invite people in the country to come in saying they hate Jews, you can't expect them to stop hating Jews the minute they cross the threshold of American territory. So
he knows whose side he's on. I already told you, this guy's a cuck, bro. This guy's, the way he treated his wife, I mean, after, and the way he'll just say whatever. It's just crazy, bro. Now, really quick, I want to throw something out to Kat. That thing I said yesterday about Billy Corgan, or what that person said about Billy Corgan being the white Cat Williams, I put on my shaman vision and I looked into Billy's heart. I do believe Billy's a pedophile. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I don't believe that Kat is. I think we're talking about two totally different people here. I don't believe that Billy Corgan is the white Cat Williams. Granted, him coming forward and talking about the Masons and him being in his apron and all that stuff, he's just telling us who he is and what he's doing, And at least Cat has been exposing the industry for a very, very, very long time. He suffered the consequences more than once, career-wise and financially, from what I understand. So I'm just saying, in the ether, sensitivity-wise, what I picked up, two totally different spirits there. And I give Billy Corgan credit for at least coming out and admitting that, to a certain extent. I mean, I think he was deceptive when he said that he was not a Mason, but they're allowed to deceive us. He also, I'm not going to lie, kind of looks like vampire, just a little bit. Not trying to be a dick, Billy. You kind of got the look, bud. You got that. That look. All right. All war is a symptom of man's failure as a thinking animal. John Steinbeck. And that's pretty much where we're at here. Are we thinking outside the box here? Or are we trust that openly worship the devil? And would it make sense why they would have us fighting in endless wars and killing each other? Yeah, it would. Remember, you guys, man conquers the world by conquering himself. There's all sorts of ways that can be applied, all sorts of different shades to that truth. The thing is that you are the prism through which that truth may take different shades. Conquer yourself. Stop trying to control the world. Make the changes in your life that are necessary to change your mentality, to change your cognitive grasp of the world. Make the changes necessary to get out of the box, to think differently. Make the changes necessary to see beyond the illusion and into the shades of gray. and try to find the color in there somewhere, right? Fuck Israel. And if you're listening to this, you are the resistance. Imagine hating me, and this is all I'm over here doing. You know what I'm saying? I just don't get it. Why it is that these people would hate me so much. These Jews would hate me so much just because I don't believe in Satan, you know? But it's because they think this shit is funny. These people are evil. They think that, you know, it's gangster to be pimping women, and, you know, they think it's gangster to have a fake fucking currency system that they use to traffic children. They think it's gangster, right? You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. It's funny how people will believe in Wi-Fi, invisible waves, powering everything, but still think energy, frequency, and vibration are just some mystical nonsense. You guys, tell me what you think after everything. If you're still with me, if you've been following all along, if you have been watching all of these hours-long videos, if you've been paying attention even since 2020, because I know some of you out there, you know, or even 2018, some of you out there were paying attention during my YouTube days. Have I been patient? Have I been kind? What is that? Another chopper? Have I been envious or boastful? What about proud or rude? Have I been self-seeking or easily angered? Have I kept record of your wrongdoings, really? I mean, not really, no. I mean, I'll call a spade, but I've forgiven so much, you know. We all know that's true. Have I always been a protector? Have I always trusted you to be your best self? Have I always had hope for humanity, for you, for me, and our future? Have I always persevered? Have I ever failed you? All right. I'm going to let this guy talk here for a second because he actually does a really good job of breaking things down. And he claims to be special forces. So I kind of know how this guy feels to a certain extent, being that I was in the military and I've seen, you know, how it is that the military treats its own.
So the U.S. just killed and wounded around 200 people in Pakistan, and all the Neanderthalic goons in the comments section are going to be like, they shouldn't have tried to storm the embassy. Well, we shouldn't have gone to war with Iran. And while all you dumbasses are cheering on American military exceptionalism against third world savages, your words, not mine, y'all can't even go to the doctor. You live in the only developed nation on earth that doesn't have universal health care. Soon you will not own anything, and every aspect of your life will be surveilled and paywalled by the ruling parasite class. While you cheer on the sinking of Iranian naval vessels, just know that you have more in common with those drowned sailors than you will ever have with the billionaire pedophiles running our government. So when you celebrate the death of third world savages, just know that's projection. You are the third world savage. You're impoverished. You don't own anything. You're uneducated. A tyrannically militant ruling elite has taken it all from you, and you're cheering on the death of people you don't even know or understand. I've been all through this world. They don't hate us for our freedom. They actually believe we don't have freedom because we functionally do not have freedom, and they don't envy us. People come here illegally because we bomb them, displace them, overthrow their governments, and have nowhere else to go. It's a tough concept, but you'll get it. And all you MAGA alphas and Sigmas really just needing a daddy and a billionaire boot to lick so you can think you're wolves, not the passive compliant sheep you really are. Just know that a better future is possible. But first, y'all got to wake up and realize your life sucks. Your life sucks because 1,000 uber rich people who hate you and think the only point of your existence is to serve as money cattle. That's why. So you're going to get there eventually because things are not going to get better, even if we win the war against Iran. And when you do, welcome to the club. It's us versus them, and the only thing our government has to offer you is violence. You'll realize this before the end.
Okay. So, hello, Nathaniel. Should we consider this your resignation? Your surrender, sir? It's always easy to submit. It's more comfortable just to quit. No surrender, motherfuckers. G shit. Got bars for days, I can always spit. For pennies, you sell your soul. Time is on my side and takes a toll. Promise to heal and make you whole. But you think, I'm just a big fat troll. You trust Trump still? Why? Daddy's working, baby. This is Mill Avenue. Remember how I was showing you guys all that weird shit the other day from Bell, from Arrowhead Mall? This is some of the stuff from Mill Avenue. And this is just a quick 1-minute video. I got others. I have others that I put out there.
Low key, lotions and potions, the rabbit. And look at what's right outside. Lotions and potions. Look what's right outside. Very psychedelic looking artwork, you guys. Oh my God. Holy shit, you guys. I just noticed a little bit more symbolism in this exact same street corner. Look at this, you guys. Look at that number. That's 311, you guys. App 311. That's an A113 if read backwards. Do you see that? Do you see that? And look at that. The flower shop. Fashion, toys, and miscellaneous. Oh my God.
With the kid. Do you see
Which
the kid?
which question?
Do you see the kid being lifted up? And maybe that's not a kid. Maybe that's just another woman. But I don't know. Just kind of weird.
Which question mark? Whoa. Superior sandwiches? See the triangles? And right down the road right down the sidewalk from that Aurora place that had that Illuminati looking symbolism is Box D House Restaurant. Remember the Saturnian box, the square.
Okay, and that's just a couple of things, man. That whole area was just littered with symbolism, okay? I told you guys way back in the WinRed back channels that I haven't even shown you half of my intellectual capacity. Never forget, you may have tech, but I got God. You may have death, but I got life. Can't run a marathon stuck in a frozen lake, can you? Time is on my side. I'm here to save my country. Some hard pills to swallow. Democrats represent illegal immigrants. Republicans represent Israel. And there's nobody to really represent the United States except for me. There's nobody to represent the Americans except for me, baby. I got you. I got you. I saw this was a psychological operation designed to demoralize us and destroy our country in 2004. God showed me, and I listened. So some hard pills to swallow. All Jews consider you subhuman cattle. Jeffrey Epstein was running a pedophile blackmail ring on behalf of the Jewish state. Hard pill to swallow, but that's the situation. But thank God you guys actually do have somebody to represent you and your interest at the table. I got you, man. I got you. Now, here's J.D. Vance saying, if you want your kid to fight in some stupid globalist war, vote for Joe Biden. Yeah. You know, he was hanging out with those Ashkenazis in that exact same power suit too, wasn't he? Like a Donald Trump replica. Here's Smedley Butler, the guy that wrote the general that wrote the book War is a Racket after World War I. He said, I wouldn't go to war again as I have done to protect some lousy investment of the bankers. There are only two things we should fight for. One is the defense of our homes, and the other is the Bill of Rights. War for any other reason is simply a racket. Well, we actually have to fight for both of those things, for our home and the Bill of Rights at this point, you guys. That's why I'm trying to keep this from getting too violent. The United States has more than 900 military bases worldwide. Each one carries its own story of expansion of the empire, occupation, sexual violence, and environmental destruction. And J.D. Vance was going to be their guy for their war machine. J.D. Vance was going to be the one that they propped up for the people. They were going to try to get everybody to trust this fat, stupid hillbilly. Faggot shit. So this is a situation right here. Woodrow Wilson sold America like stock and gave control to the powers that be at the time. You want real political change? Repeal the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, or just, go with my lawsuit. My lawsuit's probably the better way to go, because then you're still going to be trusting Congress. Go with my lawsuit. because this is the situation both with Republicans and Democrats. All U.S. politicians basically have a gun in their back with AIPAC. Okay, that's it. Big smile. Now, say Israel is the greatest ally that we have, right? That's what their situation is. So you're never going to get anywhere. You're never going to get real justice with these people. And look, non-Jews denied access to the bomb shelter, but you got Trump dropping bombs. Isn't that interesting? How do you people in Israel feel about that? That your government didn't allow you inside the bomb shelters because you're not fucking Jewish. But they have Trump bombing Iran, and then they use Iran to bomb you so that the leadership can still stay in charge. Think about that. Think about that. And here I am actually saying, hey, you can have real leadership if you just go with my lawsuit and start talking about it. You can have real leadership if you guys actually recognize the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and my authority in it. Okay? Because you got the same people saying that this is evil, supporting these people saying this is evil. When you call this evil, they say that you're anti-Semitic. They say it's not terrorism when we do it. I'm calling bullshit. I'm not fucking dying for Israel, and neither are any of my countrymen. All right? These people, that you got AIPAC in here saying bomb Muslims. You got ADL in here saying silence anti-Semitism, and you got HIAS talking about bringing Muslims to the USA. See how they divide our country? Do you see how they play all sides so that they can create this destabilization and siphon our money and our kids? Keep us fighting each other as opposed to uniting and getting them the fuck out of our country? Reminder, Iran does not have nuclear weapons. Only one country in the Middle East does. And they technically shouldn't have it because they're an undeclared nuclear power. And we're talking about a nation of pedophiles and rapists and cannibals here. Israel is a safe haven for accused rapists and pedophiles, you guys. Then this is all a distraction from the fucking satanic pedophile rings. And the fact that a rogue nation state threatens the entire world with nuclear weapons, and it's not Iran. Undeclared nuclear weapons at that. Now, the 100% of recipients of the FIFA Peace Prize have started a war only months later. I'm really starting to question the legitimacy of this award. Notice the severed hands clawing at the world. Now, what does that mean? Dad, whose side do we support in this war? Neither side. All wars are orchestrated by evil men and parasitic bankers, son. And that includes this one. Hitler said it. Make the lie big, make it simple, and keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Black magic, bro. Look what he did with the swastika. Look what these people did. It's a fucking death cult, dude. Death cult of fucking Ashkenazi Jews that believe in their own genetic superiority and the use of black magic. Demonically possessed bodies that are coordinating the destruction of humanity and the enslavement of our souls. And through what? Through war and propaganda. Through child sacrifice and rape and murder. What a surprise. So here we are. Going from Iraq to Iran. The war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be continuous. You see? Isn't that interesting? So these are the kind of changes that you can make right now. You can do this kind of stuff right here on every single one of your dollar bills in your wallet. This is the kind of stuff that can end up spreading things around, okay? Turn off your tell-lie vision, okay? And just do some research. It's really that simple. Plant seeds, guys. Plant seeds. The mind is the battlefield. This is the war right here. It's for this. The mind is the battlefield. Fight in it. Change minds one at a time. One mind at a time, okay? Listen to this guy. This shouldn't be surprising because of everything we've said thus far, but listen.
Israelis don't give a shit about human life, about civilians, and we're going to see a lot of civilian casualties. On the flip side, the Iranians said days ago, even as long as a week ago, that if there were going to be an attack, they would strike U.S. assets around the Persian Gulf. They have done exactly that. They have hit the U.S. military base in Kuwait. They've hit the center of Manama, Bahrain, the capital of Bahrain. They've hit Abu Dhabi. There was a missile intercept.
So they might have hit one military base, but they're hitting the capital of Bahrain. Are they hitting civilian targets? Are they hitting military targets? What's the deal?
Over Dubai. This is a real.
Yeah, they were sending missiles over to Dubai, right? So I mean, civilian targets, military targets. What are they doing? Who's responsible? Is Iran really not a puppet government for the Rothschilds? How are they being used? Are they being used to target the problem, or are they being used to target populations?
War. This isn't going to be just, a back and forth tete-a-tete over the next 24 hours. This is a conflagration. And my friend Jeannie just texted me from Florida to say that the Dish Network has blocked Al Jazeera from broadcasting here in the United States. They don't want us to see what's happening in the Middle East. We know from CNN and from other sources, New York Times is reporting that an Israeli missile hit a girls' school in southern Iran this morning, killing.
It's interesting. New York Times are also the one that was responsible for that pedophilia freaking headline the other day.
57 children. So get used to that. That's going to be what this war looks like. The Israelis don't give a shit about human life, about civilians, and we're going to see a lot of civilian casualties.
Okay. Now, this is a really old clip, but I wanted to play it for you. I remember this. They actually went after this guy. I think this guy was running for president in 2004. And they went after this dude after he said this, if I'm not mistaken. I think this guy's a Republican, but I could be wrong. He might be a Democrat. But I remember this guy's face, and I remember this guy saying this, and I remember how controversial it was because it basically blew the lid off of the military-industrial complex's lie.
We've made the decision we're going to war with Iraq. This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, we're going to war with Iraq. Why? He said, I don't know. He said, I guess they don't know what else to do. I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, are we still going to war with Iraq? And he said, oh, it's worse than that. He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today. And he said, this is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Interestingly enough, Bibi Netanyahu was in, I believe, the chambers of the Congress talking about doing just that, either shortly after or before 9/11.
I said, is it classified? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me.
Okay. This is the situation. These people are getting kicked out of all these different countries over all of these centuries for the same problem, you guys, over and over and over and over and over again. It's because they're Ashkenazi Jews. They are not actual Semites. They are Satanists wearing the guise of Judaism, so that if you call them out for being sick, pedophile, rapist, cannibal Satanists, then you can be called anti-Semitic. It's their only defense. And now that that mask is being ripped off, I guarantee you they're going to try to put on another mask. They're going to try to hide behind something else. That's why I'm calling out what's happening with Iran. Okay, because what Iran is doing is not strategic military strikes. That doesn't make any sense. If Iran really wanted to solve the problem, then they would do what it is that I'm saying, but they're not. So it's about perpetual war, like what Julian Assange was saying, right? It's about keeping the money train going. It's also about keeping the child trafficking trains going, okay? Because these people want to keep these demons in children's blood and children's flesh, okay? These people are insane. So this is the situation. It isn't Epic Fury, it's Operation Epstein Files or Operation Epstein's Fury, okay? If he's calling for a revolution, which, I mean, like I said before, do we really know that account is Nathan Rothschild? If he's calling for a revolution, I'm calling for an evolution. Now, what does that mean? You will see, and you will believe. Information is best weaponized when also using time as leverage, you guys. Genius does not require applause, only time. And like always, I will carry you through this, kicking and screaming. And in the end, you will thank me.